Marvel crosses over with Star Wars, and the Avengers invade. This video is purely for entertainment, and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting, and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, The Plot Against Satine. Walking toward her ship, Satine felt like everything was falling toward her. How did this happen in such a short period of time? First, the rise of the Death Watch on Concordia, or the resurgence of the group. And second, those who claim to be true Mandalorians in just a few days. There have been assassination attempts on several fronts, and now this madness in the Senate. Jarek's fake information and the self-proclaimed true Mandalorian have revealed themselves to the Republic, presenting them with a blatant challenge. Surprisingly, she was even conscious now, instead of lying in bed. She would have done so if she hadn't wanted to go to the intelligence department immediately to find out the truth. As her speeder passed, she heard someone running toward her. Duchess. Kenobi called to her. Wait. As he approached, Sardine's guards turned and pointed their weapons at the GD. She raised a hand and ordered them to stand down. I just heard what happened in the Senate, Kenobi said calmly, and Sadine's eyes dropped. Ah. You okay, Satine? Couldn't help but smile a little. Thanks for your concern, but I promise I'll be fine. I'm worried. We are. Kenobi hesitated. We are friends, aren't we? Hearing this, Satine felt sad. She was hoping to hear something more. Yes, friend. And that's all. Obi-Wan soon realized what he had said, which now made him doubt it. The GD general thought they would become close friends, but Sardin seemed to want more than that. The old memory stirred for a moment, but he quickly snuffed it out. Now was not the time for that. Satine, as your friend, I just don't want you to rush in, or do anything that would hurt you. Satine couldn't help but laugh. Obi-Wan, I think you and I both know that once I take on this responsibility, my life will always be in direct danger. Yes, but, as a GD Knight, you are no different in this war? Kenobi knew he couldn't really argue with that rhetorical question. Just, be careful, Satine. The GD general wanted to say more, wanted to express how he felt right now. But he couldn't do so, because it might lead to some unpleasant factors and consequences. Satine couldn't help but place a hand gently on his cheek. Always be my eternal knight. When I need you, I know you will be there. The Duchess boarded her shuttle and took her seat as her guards quickly moved in. She took one last look at her old friend as her driver Aramis took off into the air, heading towards the Ministry of Intelligence. Just minutes after she left the Senate building, her ship passed a lone figure in Mandalorian armor, emblazoned with the colors of Death Watch, hiding in the shadows of a skyscraper. Seeing the vehicle pass, the man pulled out a remote and pressed a button on the top point. In a split second, the engine of Satine's flying car was damaged and malfunctioned. What happened, Aramis? Satine asked in horror as the spaceship began to shake violently. The pilot gripped the tightly controls while trying to maintain stability. It's the navigation system that's broken, Aramis reported. Noticing that the craft was descending and unable to land safely, the pilot made a decision. Get her out of here, Aramis told Sardine's guards. There's a platform up ahead. I'll try to get closer. The guards obeyed the order and grabbed Sardine's figure. She struggled to break free and looked at the driver. No, stop it, Aramis. Satine pleaded with her friend, simply waving at the guards to do their duty. Maneuvering the ship closer to a nearby platform, Aramis tilted the shuttle for the guards. Jump. As the ship got closer, the guards jumped out of their airborne craft and huddled with Satine. They fell towards the platform, the guards breaking each other's fall. Satine was quickly released from their grasp as they all tumbled out. The moment she stood up, she could only watch as Aramis rammed the ship into a nearby building as it exploded on impact. Back to Kenobi, he stood alone in the meditation room of the GD temple, arms crossed and eyes closed. A worried look appeared on the GD master's face. Hey, Kenobi, what are you eating? Obi-Wan turned and saw Colonel James Rhodes enter the room, holding a jug of water. Rhodes. Kenobi greeted. Okay, what's going on? War Machine asked. Does this have anything to do with today's Senate meeting about your girlfriend? Girlfriend, Kenobi groaned. Did you talk to Anakin? War Machine just hummed. Come on, wise guy. What's bothering you so much? Obi-Wan didn't answer at first. Old injuries? War Machine guessed in a more serious tone. Old love? The Jedi sighed in defeat. You could say that. He felt the colonel tap him on the shoulder. We've all been there, Kenobi. This is nothing new to us Avengers. Or you. Come on. Talk about it, if you need to. Sam's really good at stuff like this. Obi-Wan nodded gratefully. Thank you, Rhodes, but he paused, his eyes glazed over, lost in thought. Colonel. Kenobi turned slowly toward the Avenger. Is it possible that you and your team could do me a small favor? In Chief Palpatine's office, Duchess Sardin had a surprise meeting with the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic himself. An unexpected event had left her in a rather sour mood when she learned the outcome of a particular scenario earlier in the day. What? Do you mean no prosecution? At all? Someone is trying to kill me. The controls on my ship are compromised. Sadly, dear, there is no evidence that anyone tampered with anything, Palpatine said. I'm afraid this was an accident. Accident? And this just happens to coincide with my defense of my homeworld? Sardin retorted. I agree with Satine. Both the Duchess and the Supreme Chancellor looked towards the Deputy Chairman as both major political leaders looked a little surprised at what was said. Somewhere in her, Satine felt a little relieved. It was coming out. Well, it's finally here. This proves what I've been saying all along. Death Watch is out of control. The Republic must step in and help. Mars Almeida's statement surprised Satine, while Palpatine just smirked. No, wait. I didn't obviously. You can't control them. So we will, interrupted the Vice Chairman. And let's not even begin to mention these actual Mandalorians who so brazenly challenge the Republic in such an open manner. It's patently offensive. You can't do that, the Duchess said. Unfortunately, the decision is now up to the Senate, Palpatine said. I'm confident they will make a reasonable and thoughtful decision. Rushing out of the speaker's office, Satine now felt incredibly stressed. She just wanted to get rid of this nightmare. However, she couldn't do it, and could only keep all these emotions in her heart. As if it were deja vu, Kenobi rushed to her side. Satine, I just heard about your accident. Soon, some emotions came to her mind, and the Duchess expressed them clearly. Those two are the heads of this government. Obi-Wan reached out and grasped her arm, turning her around so that he could speak to her face to face. Satine, please tell me what happened. I'm fine. I'm not hurt. I didn't want to worry you, she said defensively. Well, I'm afraid, at this point, you've already failed. Kenobi could see the flat look in his eyes as he tried to lighten things up. I'm sorry. She began to walk away, prompting him to follow her. Satine, please. See what's going on. See what happened. This attack proves that I pissed someone off. Then I must be on the right track. This attack proves that your enemies are even on Coruscant. They are willing to go through a lot to see you die. Then Kenobi noticed the peculiar look in her eyes. You will not let the Republic authorities handle this? You will not back down, Republic authorities? Of course not. Satine continued walking, her mind focused on her previous destination. I'm on my way to the Ministry of Intelligence to meet my contact. Obi-Wan was concerned for her and gently grabbed her shoulders and turned her around, so they were looking at each other now. Satine, you need your friends to be with you, not at a distance. She broke away from his gaze, but that didn't mean he wanted to stop talking. In your quest for self-reliance, have you decided to cut your friends out of your life? Even me? Satine gritted her teeth. I don't know, Master. Kenobi, Duchess of Sardin, looked over and saw Padme Amidala walking towards them and saw a nervous look on her face. Senator Amidala? What's wrong? Kenobi asked. The Senate has completed its vote. Padme began, quickly passing confused looks between the old friends. They have decided to support the occupation. When did this happen? Sardin asked in astonishment. The vote was supposed to take place tomorrow. During your meeting with the Chancellor. The unexpected spread of those rogue Mandalorians, coupled with your accident, has accelerated the Senate's decision. Republic troops will march to Mandalore at sunrise tomorrow. This made Satine pale at this. She could only look at Kenobi, her hands clenched into fists. I was right before. Counting on the Republic was a mistake. That being said, she left the Republic senators and the Jedi Order behind, because Satine now had to do things her own way. As the Duchess left, both Padme and Obi-Wan shared concerned looks. Chapter 227 Silencing. In a secluded alley in GL5, Satine was waiting for her contact to arrive. She hadn't spoken to him for hours, because she couldn't do anything at the intelligence department. This forced her to use another method. Satine wore a cloak with a hood, pulled over her head, so she wouldn't be recognized. She soon heard someone walking towards her. Satine saw her source, Dav, her informant inside the ministry. I don't have much time. They're following me. He led her down the alley, hoping it would throw off his pursuers. You put yourself in great danger, Dav. I will never forget it. I had to come. But it was worth it, he said, pulling a CD from his pocket and handing it to the Duchess. Where did you get it? Buried deep in the ministry's evidence facility. It's not easy to find, believe me. What the two didn't know was that they were being watched. You are right. Someone falsified the evidence. The recording that was given to the Senate was not a complete recording, but this disc is. You must show the Senate. Before he could say anything more, the man was shot dead. Dav. She gasped loudly. Oh, no. She could hear the screams of many civilians who had heard the gunfire. Reflexively, she pulled out her electronics jammer and frantically looked around to see where the gunfire was coming from. Before she could rest, a security robot appeared a few feet away from her. We have a shooting in Sector GL5. The droid reported, before scanning Satine's face from beneath the hood. Subject identified as Duchess Satine. This didn't go as planned, not overnight. She didn't wait any longer and fled the scene because she didn't want to be caught by the people who shot her informant or by the authorities. Although the latter option would bite her sooner or later with her actions instead of turning herself in. But with the heat of things, her mind couldn't function properly. She needed to escape and regroup. The last thing she wanted was to be captured and persecuted for a crime she didn't commit. Running along the sidewalk, shoving and dodging civilians left and right, Satine must find a way to escape. As she turned into an intersection, a barrage of shots nearly hit her head. She turned and looked up to see Dav's attacker and his killer, a Death Watch member with a sniper. She wanted so badly to hunt down the man and question him, but she had no chance, as the security droids were chasing her. Not to mention they were joined by several Republic clone guards, hoping to capture her. She turned and fired her jammer at a security robot. It crashed to the ground, causing her pursuers to follow in a domino effect. Successful, she continued forward, diving into an alley. She looked around, hoping to find another route, and spotted a flying car. For the briefest of moments, Satine thought about taking the ride, but chose not to. First, someone had already boarded it, and was only moments away from leaving. Second, if she took it, it would make any charges against her much more difficult. Third, she probably wouldn't get very far either. But the moment the speeder takes off, things seem to be going her way. From the entrance to the alley, Satine could hear a Republic clone guard speaking. The Duchess is escaping in a speeder, heading for Sector Id 44. Despite the situation, Satine thanked her lucky stars. For a brief respite, she ventured into the alley and retreated into the shadows. Once she was in a comfortable spot, she hunched over, keeping an eye out for anyone nearby. Obi-Wan. Satine whispered into her comlink. Standing alone in a room in the Jedi temple, Obi-Wan heard Satine's call. Obi-Wan. Satine whispered into her comlink. "One, are you there, Satine?" Kenobi breathed a sigh of relief, turning back to her holographic transmission. "Where are you? Mars Almeida demands your surrender. I know. I need you to listen to me." She hesitated for a moment. "I need your help, Obi-Wan. The guards are after me here, and there's an assassin hunting me. I'm convinced of that." "How can you be sure?" Kenobi asked with concern. "I saw the man myself. In Death Watch armor." "I see. Where are you now?" "I don't know. I forgot where I was going. All I know is that I'm in GL5 area." "Stay." where you are, Obi-Wan said. I'm not sure that's possible, Sardin said, looking as if she were hiding behind something. Staying in one place would only get me caught. You're right, Obi-Wan muttered. Go to the public square if you can. Keep your communications open, so I can track you. Ah. You sure? Kenobi just nodded. Sardin, please trust me. Okay. I will. We'll see you soon. Yeah. Wait. Us? You'll see. Believe me, it won't be the Republic authorities. After hours of walking through alley after alley, Sardin was getting closer and closer to a public square. It was a big risk to be here, but what other choice did she have? It was large, with 4 structures that could serve as a bar, lounge, or restaurant. In the dead of night, the place was half populated. As Sardin moved among the many civilians of Coruscant, she peered outside cautiously, spotting the guards and security droids of the Coruscant clones. Walking over to a bench, Sardin sat down and pulled her hood up to make sure her face was not hidden from the guards and robots. Inside the plaza, Obi-Wan Kenobi had arrived and took a moment to look around. It didn't take him long to spot her, though. Nice disguise, he muttered to himself with a bewildered smile. After a moment she spotted him, her lips curling upward as he approached her and sat next to her, both with their backs to each other. Seeing you're okay as well, it's a relief, Kenobi said. It was also a relief having him by her side again. You should turn yourself in. We all swore allegiance to the Republic. Believe me, none of us broke our oath. Sardin pulled out the disc and slid it into Obi-Wan's hands. This will prove it. I need to get it into the right hands. But the Republican Guard is after you, which means whoever tampered with Jarek's information could be in the government itself. If you step foot in the Senate, they'll take you. And the disc will be destroyed before anyone sees it, which is why you must bring the disc to Padme. Seeing some Republic guardsmen approaching them, Sardin quickly stood up and took Obi-Wan's hand. He was forced to walk with her as they walked toward an alley. Where will you be while I'm in the Senate? Kenobi asked as the two continued through the alley. What if they find you? They won't, Sardin assured. Guards, Kenobi snapped, and clone troopers entered the alley from the direction they were going. Sardin's eyes widened, knowing that if they looked back now, it would pretty much confirm their suspicious nature. She moved quickly, pushing Kenobi against the wall. Sardin, woo-woo. He fell silent. This was quite sudden and unconventional. Not with his hand over his mouth, but Sardin blocked his lips with hers and pressed her body against him while making sure to wrap her arms around his hooded head and tilted down to cover both of their faces. She deepened a kiss when she heard the guard's footsteps getting closer. When the clones could no longer be seen and heard, Sardin left, coughing into her hands and blushing furiously. She was certainly glad she was wearing dim lighting and a hood that hid her more embarrassed expression. She took a moment to compose herself, checking their surroundings again, just to get clarity. Looks like we're in the clear now, Sardin muttered. We need to act now, Obi-Wan. Chapter 228 The Avengers and -039 Attitude. Obi-Wan. She looked up at the Jedi Knight, barely able to control her giggles as she saw a wide-eyed, stunned Obi-Wan Kenobi standing motionless before her. The Republic's powerful Jedi Master seemed unbreakable, but after a kiss, same as last time. Sardin shook his head in amusement. The Duchess reached out and gently patted his cheek a few times, pulling him out of his trance. Glad to see the old trick still works, Sardin said with a sly grin on her face, and a moment later she smiled at the Jedi Master's red face. Bang, BEP*BOTH. Men looked down and saw a thermal detonator rolling towards them. Point in a split second, Obi-Wan used the Force to push Sardin out of harm's way, and a moment later, just as the thermal detonator exploded, he dived in the opposite direction. *BOOM*SMOKE filled the area and loud sirens rang in the ears of many nearby. Coming out of her daze, Sardin saw a Death Watch member walking towards her with a blaster drawn. Before he had a chance to fire, Obi-Wan charged directly at the Mandalorian terrorist as they all fought each other. Sardin, go. But, go. Duchess did as she was told and took off, looking back as Kenobi engaged the terrorist. All she could do now was try to get to the Senate building. If she could, Satine could turn herself in, and then things might go more smoothly than they initially did. She just hoped, now that Obi-Wan could get that disc to Senator Amidala in time, so that Mandalore could be safe. As she reached the end of the sidewalk, she suddenly stopped. The reason? Because she saw 4 members of Death Watch standing in front of her, all pointing blasters at the Duchess. Satine was cornered by several Death Watch members, with guns following her. "Duchess, it's all over," one of the members sneered. Satine leaned back, her face still defiant, even though she too was afraid of what was about to happen. Everyone looked up and saw a man in grey and silver armor flying straight towards them, with his metal fist facing the head of the Death Watch member closest to them. The man felt his head cracking, then fell to the ground and lost consciousness. A moment later, a silver-blue blur rushed over with the momentum of speed, knocking another member of Death Watch out and flying into the air. However, the Mandalorian quickly activated his jetpack and stood up in the air. He didn't stay airborne for long as a red and blue force from above knocked him to the ground and quickly trapped him in the webbing. One of them tried to escape, but met a similar fate to his companion when a winged figure descended from the sky and tackled him to the ground. The last Death Watcher standing looked around wildly as 2 men rose from the ground and punched him in the sides of his helmet. The Mandalorian fell to the ground in a heap. The Duchess of Sardinia, Satine, looked back and her eyes widened slightly as she saw Captain America accompanied by Black Widow. She then glanced back and saw it was the entire roster of the Avengers, except for one. "I'm sorry it took us so long," Steve said quietly. "We are still learning how to get around the city." Satine couldn't help but give a kind smile to the heroes gathered around her. "I was saved once again by the brilliant Avengers. You can thank Kenobi," Natasha said with a knowing smile. "He was the one who called on us to help him." "Really?" Satine asked slyly, staring at the Jedi Knight, who showed a truly rare shyness. The Duchess frowned. "Isn't there 9 people in your team?" "Oh, Matt." Spider-Man began. He said he was taking care of a lone pursuer." Satine just nodded silently. "I believe it would be best if you could come with us, Duchess," Steve suggested, holding out his free hand. The Mandalorian ruler looked at the group with concern. "Do you wish to be dealt with by the Republic authorities, Captain Rogers? I will be more than happy to be escorted down by your colorful ship." Above, on the roof of a nearby building, a Mandalorian breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Satine had been rescued once again. The lone Mandalorian watched as she was surrounded in a protective way by these Avengers, who had been the subject of so much attention over the past few months. Seeing that the Duchess was safe and sound, the Mandalorian was about to take off when she suddenly felt someone behind her. "Well, now, it must be a surprise to find your way out of here," said a calm voice. The Mandalorian froze, feeling an electrified bow staff being clamped around her neck. "Don't try anything. Drop your weapons now." She cursed herself under her breath. How could this guy sneak up on her so easily? Why did he sound familiar? "I can feel you reaching for your blaster," the man began, tapping her shoulder lightly, which made her shiver and shocked Bo-Katan. "I'd rather not use it at full strength on you. It would take too long to wake you otherwise." She was now gritting her teeth in anger. Who the hell did this guy think he was? In a flash she turned and raised her right arm. A second later a torrent of flames came towards the opponent she now saw. He wore a fitted red and black suit that was almost metallic in appearance and had a blood red helmet with 2 small horns on it. Almost made him look like a Devaronian. The man ducked beneath the fire and swung his electrified staff horizontally into the Mandalorian's helmet. She tilted her head back and cancelled the flamethrower. She quickly took off with her jetpack, but it looked like the man was being reckless. He ran forward, leaped up and grabbed her legs, causing them both to fall. Though she quickly used her jetpack to keep them stable in the air, the man clung to his feet as his ears picked up a bunch of heartbeats that were all too familiar to him at this point. Using the advanced systems of his new suit, he contacted someone he knew. "Please look up," he muttered. She was trying her best to shake him off now, spinning and tumbling through the air, but the damn bastard just held onto her legs tightly, showing no sign of loosening his grip. The man reached for her blaster, his hand darting back to grab her wrist, the two now struggling in midair, able to gain the advantage. "Sonus. To see you hanging out here, Matt," she finally stopped flying around and hovered in the air, looking around from left to right and seeing not one, but two flying Avengers around her. "That's funny, Rhodes," the man holding her tightly muttered. "Now can you help me arrest her, so we can get some answers?" In response, War Machine's shoulder-mounted gun activated, pointing it directly at the Mandalorian, who was calculating in her mind how to get out of this situation. "If you think you can get away," Falcon said loudly, "you have 6 other men who can chase you." She clenched her fists and took a moment to once again assess the situation she was in. She paused at the whistling sound and looked back to see the man in the flight armor suit raising his hand, energy glowing in the center of his palm. "There's a good chance I'll accidentally shoot your jetpack while you're moving around," the armored colonel said. "Are you willing to surrender?" The Mandalorian pride roared, telling her not to do it and to fight. But another little person inside her screamed for life, making her want to stand up, because she needed to keep an eye on Sardin Point eventually. The Mandalorian reluctantly began her descent to the ground, 2 flyers dragging their weapons over her. "You know, Matt, you can let her go," Falcon yelled to him. "At this point, I'd rather not take any chances. Any one of we could have caught you," War Machine pointed out. "I repeat my previous statement. At this point you're literally only a few meters away from a solid surface. Let go." Point Matt crouched down without a word, then stood up as the Mandalorian landed in front of the Avengers. He looked over his shoulder as Duchess Satine stepped forward, Obi-Wan Kenobi at her side. There was a moment of tense silence as the Death Watch member stared at the blonde woman in front of her, and then she sighed. She reached down to her helmet and pulled it off, revealing red hair, green eyes, and a facial structure that looked a little too similar. "Hello, Satine." "Hello, Bo," Satine said after a moment of silence. "It's nice to see you after all these years." "Really?" Bo asked, raising his eyebrows. No one said anything for a moment, and everyone exchanged glances, watching the two girls clearly share a common sense of familiarity. "Forgive us, Duchess," Steve interrupted politely. "Who is this woman?" Sadine's eyes turned to the red-haired Bo. "Allow me to introduce Bo-Katan to everyone. My sister." The present Avengers remained silent about this discovery as both sisters now stared at each other in silence. Well, it's not awkward at all. Chapter 229 Shameless Palpatine. The trip back to the Senate building was much easier than expected. With the Avengers keeping the Duchess in their protective hands, she was not manhandled when she was brought in for questioning. That's not the case with Bo-Katan. As soon as the Duchess's sister came into view, the Republican guards led her in. Unlike her comrades, she offered no resistance. The Death Watch members did not want to give up information about their organization, forcing them to quickly resist in their own ways. For most of them, they used poison pills hidden in their mouths and died not long after. The last one almost committed suicide, but Cap quickly knocked the man out. None. The group hurried to Palpatine's office to display a legal holographic message instead of the one displayed earlier in the day. There was no time to call an emergency meeting, as they hoped Palpatine would overturn the Senate's decision to occupy Mandalore Point. Captain Rogers, Natasha, Murdoch, Kenobi, Satine, and Padme stood in silence, watching the actual message from Vice Minister Jarek before Palpatine and Maz Amedda. "Our government's actions have brought us into a period of civil war. To admit this is to invite panic in the streets. The Death Watch is far more powerful than we ever imagined. But we have been training for this. We can stop them. However, if we are to fight them effectively, we must have the courage to stand firm in the name of peace. If we are to do so, we must refuse any Republic assistance. This government will act instead. It will act not out of pride, but for safety. Republic intervention will infuriate the opposition. That is why our government refuses the help of the GD. We must listen to the Duchess of Sardin. If we do not, it will ultimately lead to our downfall." When the message ended, silence filled Palpatine's room and he looked at the man before him. Padme said with a hint of victory in her tone, "This is enough to prove that the information has been tampered with and forged in an attempt to challenge and undermine Sardin's rule." Standing behind them, the Avengers along with Obi-Wan and Satine watched as Palpatine maintained a stoic expression for a moment. He did not respond at first. "It does change a lot of what we've been shown before." Palpatine admitted out loud that but The decision has been made and it stands. Palpatine said with finality. The Republic will occupy Mandalore. Both Sabine and Padme were startled by this statement, and Obi-Wan looked at the former with concern. The three Avengers stood in silence, simply watching as the exchange became more heated. But you can't. What do you see? The Mandalorian said. Duchess Sardin, you have forgotten a crucial detail, and honestly, it does not alleviate my concern for you, Palpatine said, staring at Sardin firmly. While I appreciate, and truly appreciate, that we have such staunch supporters of peace and democracy like you, you fail to realize the seriousness of the matter. There are 3 Mandalorian factions within your organization, one of which has the support of the Separatists. Another has openly stated their position, and if they are truly anything like the ancient Mandalorians that once plagued the galaxy, they may prove to be a greater danger. But they don't represent all of us, Sardin retorted fiercely. You saw the full message that Jarek recorded, and you know we were prepared for this. It's it. Palpatine shot back sharply. It's one thing to prepare for a rogue, splintering faction, but what about the other? One of them has sent messages directly to everyone here, while another has tried to kill you multiple times. Don't forget, we know that only your planet of Mandalore is allied with the Republic. Concordia was shown to be harboring Death Watch right under your nose, and your capital was attacked during a visit from Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. While you can refute these things, this is not something that can be easily reversed. Yes, because you make decisions behind my back every chance you get, instead of standing up for the principles you falsely represent, it seems. Satine said with a sarcastic look on her face, leaning against the table. Palpatine sighed in exasperation, and gave her a sympathetic look. I'm sorry, Duchess, but this is truly out of my control right now. What do you mean? Satine asked, clenching her fists. Maz Almeida spoke on Palpatine's behalf. Because of your previous dramatic behavior, you have been labeled a fugitive, an odd choice for someone who fought for peace. But I'm not, Satine defended the Mandalorian. My friend was shot, and then the majority of the Senate doesn't see it that way, and that's okay, because the fleet is already on its way to Mandalore to deal with you, or to stop you from sabotaging the mission at hand. A hint of anger appeared on Sadine's face. She stared at Maz, then at Palpatine. You have no idea what you're doing. This will only drag Mandalore into a war. We've been recovering from war for decades, Satine said, lightly pounding her fist on the table for emphasis. That's what the occupation is about, and our purpose is the same, Maz Almeida said cheekily, as if it were the most obvious thing. Then, I hope you realize that once occupation comes, the death of innocents will be in your hands, and at your choice. Satine snorted. Though I'm sure that won't bother you too much considering the war you failed to prevent. Satine turned around, a look of barely suppressed anger on her face. Padme remained where she was, standing with the Supreme Chancellor, only giving her Naboo Senator an apologetic look. Kenobi followed the Duchess, with the 3 Avengers following behind them. What do you think of him? Steve asked quietly. He looks too much like Pierce, Natasha said, frowning. You think so, too, Pierce? Matt said loudly. If I remember correctly, isn't that the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Yeah, until it was revealed that he was actually the head of Hydra. I remember hearing about this on the news last year, Matt said. A plotter, parading as a righteous man. Sound familiar? Natasha said. While Hydra hasn't made a public appearance in decades, they are manipulating events on Earth, so that one day they can take over. Even planting their agents within S.H.I.E.L.D. to make it happen as smoothly as possible. Luckily for us, they weren't able to work with some of us, the American said. So, Captain, what do you think about all this? Daredevil asked. Steve was silent for a moment. What should we do? Steve's eyes went to the Duchess and the GD who were deep in conversation. We need to take our time here, Steve said in a non-argumentative tone. Our main goal is to find our missing friends and get home first. We are still new to the whole Republic situation. Better be careful then, Matt said at the nods of Natasha and Steve. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Failure. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Satine were having a heated discussion in an empty room. This was supposed to be done in the hallway, but Obi-Wan didn't want to create such an awkward scene and make things worse for Satine. So, he pulled her into the nearest room he found where no one was present. "Satine, please, don't do anything irrational," Obi-Wan said in a slightly pleading tone. "Irrational behavior?" Satine shouted angrily. "I'm far beyond this concept. Your republic has just made a willful judgment on my people without me even being there. No, I know you ran around. You came to rescue me. The Avengers' help was all in vain." Satine barely managed to control himself. "Now I have to deal with what the Republic has done to my people." "Satine, Obi-Wan, I have to go home. I need to serve my people," she said. "They will be worried, afraid. I need to stop the unrest that will grow as the Republic knocks on our door." Kenobi opened his mouth to speak, but he felt Satine's hand on his cheek and she gazed at him lovingly, which touched him greatly. "It's alright, Obi-Wan. This is beyond your control," Satine said in an understanding tone that did little to help Kenobi feel better about the situation. "Sorry, you did the best you could. I appreciate it, but right now I need to do things on my own for a while." She left the room, left this world, and returned to Mandalore. Her people needed her now more than ever. Meanwhile, Kenobi could only stand there in silence as he failed to prevent the issue from happening. As soon as the Duchess left, the 3 Avengers who came with him came to the office where Obi-Wan was. "I don't think your conversation was as good as you hoped," Natasha asked knowingly. Obi-Wan simply walked over to a nearby chair and sat down with a tired sigh. "How are you, Obi-Wan?" Steve asked, moving over to pat the Jedi Knight's shoulder in comfort. "I'm fine," Obi-Wan said, then sighed. "Maybe I need a night's rest." "Maybe," Steve mused. "What about Satine?" "She has left, returned to Mandalore, to lead her people," Kenobi replied. "Where's the Duchess's sister?" Murdoch asked. "Has she left?" "She's being held here." Obi-Wan nodded. "Ideally, we'd like her to tell us what she knows about Death Watch," Natasha said. "But that's unlikely. It's going to take time for that to happen." Matt just hummed in thought. "With what's coming, I think getting a good night's sleep is what we have to do now." "Agreed," Steve said. "Come on, Obi-Wan." They left the room and returned to the temple. Currently in one of the training rooms, Peter is wearing a very large helmet. It nearly swallows up his entire head. "Do I have to wear this thing, Obi-Wan? It's too big." Peter grumbled slightly, tapping the side of his helmet. "Yes, you have to, Peter. Is there any reason?" "Well, if we are going to test this spider sense of yours, we have to see how and where it can be applied," Kenobi responded simply. "But I can't see anything." Peter tried to take his helmet off, but his hand was knocked off by Kenobi's. "It's best not to see your surroundings. I'd rather use an eye patch." "What's so fun about this?" Though his expression was hidden, the flat look Obi-Wan received was enough to make his master laugh. "Oh, I don't know. First of all, not having to deal with a bulky helmet. Well, it's tradition that a man is trained to do this kind of exercise. Peter, I'm not a Jedi, Obi-Wan," Peter said emphatically. "That may be, but your spider sense is very similar to the skills of a Jedi." "What? How did you do that?" Well, not exactly. But there is a familiarity to a certain warning that is familiar to me," Kenobi argued. "While they are unique to each other, if my instincts are correct, the similarities they share can help strengthen your control over your sixth sense." Parker was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Okay, let's get started." By pressing a button on the remote control, several probes floated into the air and hovered around the young Earthlings. "Now, make sure to dodge the lasers." "I'm sorry, but wow." The first probe fired a round into Peter's arm. "Ouch. That hurts." "Thank goodness this is on the lowest setting," Kenobi said with a hint of a smile on his face. Peter muttered to himself, patting his helmet gently. "Come on, you stupid prick." For a while, he kept getting hit by probes that were floating around him. At first, it was kind of amusing to the Jedi Master to see Peter doing his best to avoid getting hit. But now it's just a bit of a bother. Peter dropped to the ground, growling, and took off his helmet, throwing it aside. "Okay, that's it. I'm not wearing that oversized bucket. Yes. Obi-Wan stroked his beard. Perhaps this is not the right way to start your training. Oh, what do you think? Peter snapped, then stood up. The Jedi Master gave a thoughtful look. Perhaps some alternative approach would make sense. What on earth is it? Peter asked. Obi-Wan hummed and groaned, his eyes fixed on Peter, then at the helmet, then at the boy. Tell me something, Peter, what was it like when you first gained these powers? Obi-Wan asked curiously. Peter stared at the Jedi Master, arms crossed, and recalled the first few weeks when he had acquired these powers. It was always a little difficult to talk about it, as it was always close to a dark period in his life, but for the sake of this training, well, whatever happened, happened. It's like all my senses went away at once. Sorry, meaning of Earth. What I was trying to say is my senses were so heightened that it was hard to maintain them properly. Peter elaborated. There was so much information coming at me at once that it took a while to get the hang of it. Obi-Wan hummed thoughtfully at this little bit of information, the gears in his head turning as he reviewed what he had just been told. Maybe we've been going about this the wrong way, Kenobi admitted. We re-standing up and jumping into something you're just starting to master, instead of repeating something you're just getting used to. Then what should we do then? Peter asked, standing up. Kenobi walked over to the young teen and placed a hand on his shoulder. Now, let's start with the basics. Kenobi said with a slight smile. You have the basics, but once you master it, nothing is out of reach. Like what kind of basics? Let us get creative. Kenobi smiled. It might be a test for both of us, combining the Earth teaching methods you know, and the ways of the Jedi. Perhaps we can create something new and innovative, of your own. Chapter 231, Being Stretched Thin. What's going on over there, guys? Sam asked, standing at a hollow table with Steve on the other side, standing with War Machine, Ayla Secura, and Commander Bly. There's unrest everywhere, Steve admitted, frowning and crossing his arms. We had several skirmishes with the Separatists and the Death Watch. Bly pointed at him with a frown, helmet tucked under his arm. They are testing us, testing the Republic and the Duchess's government. Shaking his head. They must be planning something. Really? They don't want you there? Sam asked. I can't imagine why not. We made a mistake. A wise voice came from behind. Sam looked behind him and saw Obi-Wan and Cody coming back from the front. Obi-Wan. Ayla greeted, nodding to her fellow Jedi. What's the situation on Mandalore? Obi-Wan asked with a hint of worry in his tone. Well, the citizens of Mandalore are certainly not happy with us being here, and we've had some scuffles with the Sith and Death Watch, War Machine said. The presence of Republic troops is dividing Satine's people, either to side with Death Watch or to remain with her, Ayla said. Maybe that's why Death Watch is pushing them harder. They're hoping people will side with them, but that's unlikely, Steve pointed out. By the way, how's the progress with Bo-Katan? Kenobi asked. War Machine responded. Matt says it's a very slow process. It hasn't worked out yet. What? About the Protectors, who made the statement? Obi-Wan asked. There hasn't been a lot of response or even show up, Bly said. Really don't know what's going to happen here. Isn't the rest of the Mandalore space occupied by those Protectors? Falcon asked. Indeed. Ella nodded. But they are not under our jurisdiction. These Protectors are different from the Death Watch, Obi-Wan said. I'm surprised they haven't shown up on Mandalore yet. Mandalore is in a state of turmoil. While it is possible that they have greater numbers and resources, we have yet to discover that possibility. I heard things aren't going so well in some other parts of the Republic either, Sam mentioned. Hey, Obi-Wan, Cody, didn't you guys say Anakin was assigned somewhere else now? Yes, Obi-Wan confirmed. He was sent to Tatooine, where a powerful Separatist fleet was engaged by Jedi Master Feroda and the 369th Battalion. It seems like we are stretched thin everywhere, Steve said, crossing his arms. Indeed, Ayla said. Master Feroda mentioned that he had intercepted several fleets that were trying to gain a foothold in Hutt space, and that he was outsourcing and selling his droid battalions to any willing buyer. They're getting bolder, Cody said in a grim tone. Scott and Hope chimed in, saying that they had fought off a Separatist fleet alongside Master KO's. It was their second victory. Steve added, causing Falcon to blink a second time. Sam was obviously worried. How are the two companions? It is said that Scott, Hope, and Master Koth have been replaced by Master Plo Koon and Master Kit Fisto, with Quicksilver accompanying them, Obi-Wan said. Koth and his forces are currently recuperating before returning to Coruscant to reform and strengthen their lost forces. Speaking of chaos, GD Master Zabrak now stood aboard his flagship, surrounded by his loyal battalion of clone troopers. The name always brought a smile to his face at the thought of his clone troopers choosing to forego their original designated numbered battalions and instead use his individual characteristics in order to stand out from the other battalions and regiments. His fleet had been put to the test in the past few days, with the Horn Squadron suffering heavy losses, especially in the final attack. Now, his troops needed time to rest and recuperate. Hey, Ace, how you doing? A smile returned to his face as he turned around and saw Ant-Man walking towards him, a snack bag in his hand. The Zabrak couldn't recognize it, but he had been hearing that these Earth-based foods were starting to spread among the Republic military and were apparently spreading throughout the populace. I'm fine, Scott. Koth said kindly. How are you and Hope? We are fine, Scott said with a shrug. He handed the bag to the GD Master. Want to try it? After countless attempts, I finally found the right formula. He raised his brows in curiosity and reached into the bag, pulling out some strange thin crisps with some kind of powder on them. What is this? Chaos asked. Fries, Scott replied. Sour cream and onions. Popping the chips into his mouth, Chaos was pleasantly surprised by the spicy and salty taste. It's delicious, Chaos admitted, and Scott offered him more, which he happily accepted. Yeah, they're really tasty, but a little unhealthy, Scott admitted. Then again, we were running around, so for sure, we were burning off calories and fat. When the alarm suddenly sounded, it scared the two of them. What happened? Chaos asked loudly. An enemy ship has emerged from hyperspace, a clone pilot announced. Chaos raised his wrist communicator. Captain Loke, battle station. Yes, General Point. Scott contacted his significant other, Hope, Scott said with concern. Inside the hangar, Hope Van Dyne ran around in full suit and new streamlined wristbands. I'm fine here, Scott, Hope said over the comlink, running over to a clone that had been injured in a previous battle and putting him on a stretcher, allowing the clone to take him to the ship's medical bay. We have an enemy ship coming. Scott returned to the bridge with Ace Koss, and the two stood in front, looking out at the vastness of space as the Separatist ship emerged from hyperspace. Get everyone ready for battle, Chaos ordered, and offensive turbolasers bombarded the allied ships, and the enemy ships fought back point as the boat to rock. Scott's helmet began formed around him. That ship looks much larger than the last one we captured, Ant-Man said nervously. Chaos had to agree with that, looking down at one of the clone pilots. Send a distress beacon immediately, Chaos ordered. Their weapons and numbers far outnumber ours. The clone nodded, and Chaos contacted his captain again. Loke, what's the situation now? The Bugle Company is armed and ready, Captain Loke announced. Sir, a clone spoke up, getting the Jedi's attention. Enemy ships are approaching for a boarding. Boarding a plane? Koss recognized the tactics immediately. Only one man would do such a thing openly. General Grievous. Hearing this, Ant-Man turned and left the bridge. I'm going there, Scott said to Koss, but Hope seemed to overhear. Stay there, Scott, she snapped. If it's Grievous aboard, he'll head straight for the bridge in Koth. From what we've heard about him, stay there and help support Koth. I'll stay here with the clones to keep them company, Scott tried to object, but the ship shook violently and looked out the window to see that the Separatist ship was now right next to the Star Destroyer. Here we go, said Chaos down below. Hope and Hornlink stand in front of a door that the droids will use to enter the ship. Get ready, men, Captain Loke called out. Multiple blasters pointed at the door. The Wasp's eyes narrowed, her wings extending from her back, and she shrank back, flying towards the door. Just as it opened, multiple super battle droids suddenly opened fire on the clones. Several were knocked down, but a moment later the first dozen supers were hit with small bolts aimed at their heads, and a moment later the door closed. A small figure pulled in front of the clones, and then the Wasp appeared in front of them. Is everyone okay? Wasp asked some of the clones, just relieved. We could have suffered much more, but you came, Miss Van Dyne, Luke said gratefully. They heard the sound of burning metal, and the clones and the lone Avenger turned to see a red glowing blade protrude from the door's hinges. It slowly swung in a circle around the door. Stand back, Luke shouted. I'll hold them off, the Wasp said very seriously, stopping some of the clones. You heard me, Hope said sharply, pulling back his helmet momentarily to adopt a look of total seriousness. Go regroup. We are not fully prepared for this attack. The least you can do is fall back to a more defensible position. As soon as Hope finished this sentence, the door flipped over, revealing a Myrialan woman dressed in black and holding a red lightsaber in her hand. Her yellow eyes immediately fell on Hope, and a pair of strong hatred burned out of them. You? She roared viciously. Oh, great, it's her, Hope muttered, recognizing the Miriam in front of her as one of the Dooku attendants she and Natasha had encountered not long ago. Chizonova, I have not forgotten Nemoidia, you little mosquito, Chezo almost growled. On the other hand, Hope, mosquito? Is that your best insult? The Wasp was irritated and stood up. Chezo just growled, calling to the droid behind her. Deal with the clone. She's mine. What makes you so confident? Wasp suddenly found herself flying through the air, completely caught off guard by an invisible force that sent her sliding to the ground. She looked up in time to see the Sith attendant lunging at her, lightsaber raised above his head. In an instant, Wasp shrunk just in time for Chizora's lightsaber to slash into the space she once lay in. Looking around with killing intent, she briefly heard the buzz of wings as she felt a sharp kick to her stomach. After the attack, Chizo grunted as she held an arm to her stomach, only to be beaten to a pulp by a little superheroine. Falling to the ground, Chizo now held her chin. When metallic footsteps could be heard from behind. She looked up and saw General Grievous pulling his fist back to his side. The droid general was looking at her in annoyance with his yellow slit eyes. What are you doing, you idiot? A stern metallic voice croaked. Don't you realize we're on a mission? There's an Avenger here, Chezo hissed, standing up. Yes, I know, Grievous said impatiently. I just shot a small insect that looked like a human. That's her. Chizo turned around to see if he could spot her. I took care of that insignificant speck, Grievous said in a gruff tone. Action. We have a mission to accomplish. Chezo grew, but obeyed. Watch out for a small insect flying around here, Chezo ordered over the comms. Although she may be small, she is deadly and dangerous and can cause us great damage. Chapter 232 Ant-Man is captured. Back on the bridge, Captain Loke contacts Ace Koss and Scott. Language status. Report. Chaos asked. On Loke's side, the clone captain was caught in the crossfire, retreating back and firing repeatedly at the oncoming wave of droids. Too many, Loke yelled, gritting his teeth in anger and frustration. Several more clones died around him, but they continued to fight. Where's Hope? Scott asked with great concern. She told us to stand back while she tackled one of the waiters, Loke informed. Scott froze in fear when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked towards Escus and saw the GD Knight giving him an affirmative look. Trust your partner, Scott, Koss said. You Avengers are different than most. She knows how to take care of herself. Although he wanted to argue, Ant-Man knew there was truth to what Chaos said, especially in the case of the Wasp, who had been separated from them when they first arrived in the system and had taken good care of herself until they found her. Meanwhile, Chaos turned his attention to Captain Loke. You guys go to the escape pod. I'll deal with Grievous here. But, sir, you can't face all this alone, Loke argued. Risk all my men killed? I guess not, Captain, Koss countered in a tone that left no room for argument. Let's go. Loke hated this. He wanted to help his general, but Koss made it clear. Get everyone out. All soldiers, proceed to the evacuation bay immediately, Loke ordered. Ms. Van Dyne, where are you? Wasp flew towards the bridge of the ship, dodging the blasters aimed at her. The commando droids proved to be worthy of their name, as they made sure to fire a constant stream of blaster bolts in her direction. Now, she needs to reunite with Scott and Koss and get rid of the ship. However, she stopped in midair when she heard the clones yelling in panic. Looking back, she saw the clones running away, several of them injured, being chased by super robots and commandos. She gritted her teeth and flew straight at them, firing her stingers. She fired them into the robot joints, her stingers having been upgraded since arriving in this galaxy to take out the metal enemies they usually encountered. All the while, Escus and Ant-Man waited for the impending attack on the bridge, with the clones in the room pointing their weapons at the door. They heard metallic footsteps coming from another door, and the clones tensed, while Escus chose to ignite his lightsaber. Scott's helmet was wrapped around his head, his thumb hovering over the button that shrunk him. A blue lightsaber pierced the door from the other side and slowly began to carve a path through the metal, forming a circle large enough to penetrate the room. The room was tense and silent as the blasters were dragged toward the door. After reaching a complete circle, there were several metallic knocks from the other side, which made Scott move, while KO stood firm. Suddenly, the door burst from its hinges, causing Scott to instinctively flinch, while an unfortunate clone was hit and knocked back. Scott, who had grown taller again, looked towards the entrance and saw General Grievous walking in with his arms clasped behind his back. "GD," the robot general said, before staring at Ant-Man. "Avenger." Ant-Man couldn't help but waved back nervously, but he remained strong, because he knew he was in for a fight. "That's terrible." Koth gripped his lightsaber tightly as Grievous stepped aside. In walked several commando droids, who raised their blasters and the clones opened fire on them. Scott sprang into action, cowering and knocking 2 commando droids' heads off with his clones, while Koth took out the others. However, Grievous now enters with them, but Koth and Ant-Man continue to fight, until Grievous's hand reached out, grabbed the leaping Ant-Man, and threw him to the ground. Although Scott's body took the brunt of the fall, he accidentally caused the growth button to hit the ground. Now back to his full size, Scott had several mana guards surrounding him, pointing their electrified staffs at him. Koth was disarmed, the mana guards grasping his arms, an arm behind him wrapped around his neck. The GD Master watched as Grievous leapt onto the hollow table, shadows highlighting his slitted yellow eyes. "Ascus, isn't it? I've been looking forward to meeting you," Grievous said with a maniacal laugh. "Your reputation precedes you, General," KO said calmly. "A reputation as a coward and a murderer." "Murderer?" Grievous stood up and grabbed his 2 lightsabers. "Is ridding the galaxy of GD filth murder? Well, that just labels it as genocide," the Avengers said. "General Grievous." The robot general looked back and saw Chesneva walked in, and the waiter immediately looked down at the Avenger. She laughed at him and kicked him in the head. He was happy about his helmet, but still a little hurt. "What is this?" Grievous asked impatiently. "It's another Avenger," Chezo said. "She's gone. None of the other robots can seem to find her. You let her escape, have you forgotten? She might curl up into a ball, making herself difficult to see." Chezo shot back. "However, I was able to capture someone with the same abilities." Grievous countered. Chezo's face twitched with anger, but she knew there was no point in trying to argue with the bloody general, and she simply waved at the mana guards. The droid electrocuted both the Avengers and the GD, rendering them unconscious in a secluded area inside the bridge. Hope Van Dyne watches from behind an air vent as Koth and Scott are taken away by their kidnappers. A wasp gritted her teeth and chose to stay out of sight, continuing to pursue the Separatists, who now had 2 important people as hostages. She raised her Avengers ID card, pressed the emergency signal, and quickly followed Grievous and Chezo into their ship. Chapter 233, Arrogant Grievous. Cap stood on the bridge of Arla's flagship, the aforementioned GD Knight beside him, along with Commander Bly. The 3 surrounded the ship's holographic image as they attended an emergency meeting called by the GD Council. On the other end, multiple other GD clones and several members of the Avengers were present. At the GD Temple, Anakin returns from the battle on Tatooine and Obi-Wan returns from Mandalore. Falcon, Black Widow, and Spider-Man stand with the GD as they observe message sent to them by General Grievous. Under his thumb are Master Koth and Scott, who seem to be in for a big shock. So this is what Hope's emergency broadcast reads. Steve is staring at Scott, his expression grim, and he's staring at Scott, who looks like he's been beaten up several times. GD Knight. It appears that another one of your order has lost his way. Better yet, a leading member of your GD Council, and one of your Avengers allies. The cyborg general spoke as he supported KOs and put his foot on Scott's back. Listen to me, GD Knight. I don't care about your politics. I don't care about your republic. I live to see you die. Master KOs was then thrown to Scott's side, and a pair of mana guards appeared and struck them on the back with their staffs. They groaned in pain from the electric shock. But for Master Koth, death will not come so easily. I will let him suffer endlessly, because I know it will be more painful for all of you. As for the Avengers, Grievous reached out and grasped Scott by the neck, lifting him up. The former criminal reached out and grasped the general's hands, trying in vain to free him. While I would only kill him here and now, his abilities and skills will do wonders for the Separatist cause. He will survive to a point. Scott was then thrown to the ground again, until his purpose is fulfilled. When the transmission ends, the conversation begins on all lines. He's a monster. How can we save them? How did he catch them? Yoda just snorted loudly and looked at Ahsoka Tano, Barriss Offee and Peter Parker, who were present. There were several young GD Knights around them, and they were obviously terrified by the torture of the droid general. Take the young man out. There is much to discuss, Yoda ordered. After receiving this information, the three teenagers took the young man out of the room and tried to distract him from what they had just witnessed. There was a palpable sense of dread hanging over the gathered crowd. Disgusting bastard, Falcon commented with a growl. What the hell are we going to do with him? That was easy, Anakin muttered. It's time someone put an end to that monster. We agree on this point, Yoda said. How to find him? The problem still remains. At one end of the group, Commander Worf approached him, GD General, and began whispering in his ear, while the others continued with their conversation. We lost contact with Master Koth after the battle with Grievous. He could be anywhere, Kenobi said. Steve. Anakin looked at Captain America. You have your own way of communicating. You mentioned your ID card and the communications that TAP uses to help you travel across the galaxy. We are having some trouble with this, Black Widow said on Steve's behalf. Anakin frowned, crossing his arms in frustration as Master Plo spoke. Commander Wolf has discovered a message in the hello transmission. Play the message. The message played again, going through the action, until it focused on the part where Koth and Scott were being electrocuted. It paused, then played twice more. Look. Anakin pointed at Koth. Hand gesture. As Anakin spoke, SKOs displayed a series of hand gestures that made everyone look at it more intently. Obi-Wan studied the holographic message carefully, examining Master Koth's gestures. I admit my skills are rusty, but, Salukame, Sector J19, 08, 05, 29, Salukame? Adi Gula said in confusion. But intelligence reports say Grievous has no ships near the area. Yes, but our intelligence is often inaccurate, Yoda pointed out. So what's a game plan? Falcon asked loudly. We have a missing Avenger, a GD Master and another Avenger captured. He's obviously trying to lure us, Windu said. Then, the question remains. Who will take the bait? Asked Plo. I will go, Obi-Wan said. My men are ready and prepared to act, so will I, Anakin added. My fleet is in orbit over Coruscant now, don't forget me, Falcon said suddenly. Someone needs to pull them out of there. Agreed, all of us? Yoda asked everyone present, and no one raised any objections. Then go. Follow the Force. We will not fail, Master Yoda, Kenobi promised. Soon, the 501st and 212th fleets departed from Coruscant, with Obi-Wan leading the fleets. Inside Skywalker's personal ship known as the Dusk, Sam stood behind the GD Knight and Captain Rex along with the rest of Team Domino Bone and the clone Dr. Kix. Currently, they are talking to Obi-Wan, with Commander Cody at his side. Are you ready? The GD Master asked. Ready, always ready, Anakin responded to Obi-Wan as he, Sam, and Rex sat on the bridge of the Dusk, with the Domino Bone squad in the back. I will engage the Separatist fleet and send you the coordinates of Grievous' command ship. Just make sure you do it right, Anakin quipped. I always do this, Sam quickly asked. How are you going to get Grievous aboard your ship? Don't worry. General Grievous and I have a history. I'm sure he'll want to even the score face to face. In the meantime, we'll jump in undetected and board the command ship, leave the rescue of course, Scott and hope to us, Sam said confidently. Hopefully, by the end of this mission, we'll have rescued them and captured General Grievous. After ending the transmission, many Republic cruisers jumped into hyperspace. Chapter 234 SQ Operation 1. Scott Lang is held in a solitary holding cell within General Grievous's main ship, with Sith attendant Cheese Onova in front of him. With his suit stripped down to his briefs, it's a pretty compromising position, to say the least. Mirialan had almost turned her eyes away from him, and he did not hesitate to glance back, though with a grimace. So, are you going to stare at me like this all day long? He asked. If so, can you stop it, then? Why should I do this? She said with a smile. Because then I'll have to start charging. What's the currency here? Credits, right? 5 credits per minute. A hideous smile appeared on Chezo's face, and she gave him a dark look that sent a slight shiver down his spine. She stared at him like he was a piece of meat. Seriously, stop it. It's creepy. Scott grunted. Great. Now I know how it feels to be watched by a woman. Chezo simply stood up from her seat and walked over to the captured Avenger. She placed a finger on his chest, from his mouth to his back, and began to walk around him. Take it as a compliment. Nice guys like you should be flattered, she said with a sentimental edge in her tone. People like you, who are just the right size, but not a walking twat. Scott squirmed a bit and laughed. If you didn't want to stick your lightsaber straight through me after you've been with me, I would. She slipped her fingers under his chin and then grasped it completely with her hand. Oh, I'll definitely go my way with you. Pry all the knowledge you have about your unique technique out of that handsome head of yours. Bondage. Scott dropped his head once he was released. I see. You like that kind of information extraction. I have lots of ideas, honey. Chezo leaned over and licked Ant-Man's cheek, which made him convulse. I can't wait to try them on you. Long just shuddered as he walked out of the cell. Boy, if Hope sees this. Scott muttered. On the bridge of the Separatist ship, Grievous strolled into the room as a tactical droid spoke up with the latest report. Sir, we have entered the Seleucus system, said the tactical robot. Begin preparations for our landing, Grievous ordered, then gazed at the captured GD Master hovering in the center of the bridge. After all, the general wished to remain in close contact with his prize until further notice. Yes, my lord. However, sir, there are several ships coming out of hyperspace, the robot on the terminal said loudly. Are there Republic or Separatism? Grievous had barely asked the question when a fleet of ships appeared from hyperspace in front of the Admiral's fleet. Republic. 3 cruiser class, 4 frigate class. Grievous simply turned to his captive GD and spoke condescendingly to him. Do you understand? Your compassionate friend came to rescue you, just as I knew he would. The frigates all flew directly towards Grievous' ship, and the general watched them intently. A Republic ship is hailing us, my master, the tactical droid spoke. Let him go. A video feed appeared on the main monitor above, showing the Separatist general, the face of Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. General, I know I will catch up with you one day, Kenobi. What a surprise. I guess you're here to bring me to justice, Grievous said sarcastically. You know me too well. I do. The transmission suddenly stopped, and Grievous barked his orders. Prepare all artillery fire, and remain alert. Whenever Kenobi appears, you will always find Skywalker following closely behind. The enemy ship is faster and more maneuverable. I recommend caution, the tactical droid advised. Pull them in. I want to board that ship. I'm going to kill Kenobi first, Grievous ordered before contacting the ship's attendant. Chezo, the Republic fleet is coming to rescue our hostages. Be ready. The Avenger we failed to capture will no doubt move quickly to rescue her comrades. You don't need to remind me, Grievous. He just shook his head, finding it annoying to work with these waiters. Along with Kenobi, the GD Master watched as the Separatist fleet began to fire upon itself. Well, we certainly noticed him, Obi-Wan said with a wry smile, holding up his calm. Admiral Yularen, keep Grievous fleet occupied, so Anakin's arrival won't be noticed. Yes, General, Yularen responded. Deploy fighters. All weapons may fire at will. The two fleets engaged, with Republic starfighters, supported by frigates, firing on the enemy fleet. Commander Cody, do we have the exact coordinates of the command ship? Kenobi asked his second in command. We're patching them up now, sir. Along with Anakin, he sat in the pilot's chair, Sam leaning back in anticipation. We are receiving General Kenobi's coordinates. So Anakin, what kind of jump will this be? Sam asked, knowing the Jedi's flying tendencies at this point. How close are we to Grievous' ship? Yeah, that's about it, was Anakin's response. Fasten your seatbelts, kids. What's your definition of very close? Sam said dryly. Like, close enough to still be in a fight? Or close enough to be on his ass? Close enough to get the job done, Anakin said with a sly grin. That's not going to help at all, Sky Guy. Anakin's brow furrowed as the clone smiled at his nickname. Aren't you a pilot yourself? I fly in a wingsuit, Anakin. It's completely different. Totally suicidal, if you ask me. You're flying, aren't you? Both forces firing at each other with everything they have. Aboard the Confederacy's flagship, Grievous walked down the bridge ladder as his sickly yellow eyes stared at his target ship. Bring me a beam, lock it to Kenobi's ship, and prepare a boarding party. The droid complied. 4 moments later, Kenobi's ship rocked. Sir, should we fire at the source? Commander Cody said. No, Cody. Let them think they can destroy us, Kenobi told the clone. We need to help distract Anakin. Aboard the Dusk, Anakin was checking the monitors, and he quickly spoke his readings. Come out of hyperspace. Wait a minute, Anakin announced loudly. Moments later, they emerged from FTL and dove headfirst into the ongoing battle. Anakin managed to weave himself around the main Separatist flagship until he was able to flip the Dusk upside down and secure it to the bottom of Grievous' ship. The main power is off, Anakin said proudly, looking back at Sam. So how's that for you? Why don't we fall down now? Asked Falcon. Seatbelts. Anakin patted his own. Yeah, well, how did you get out of hyperspace? I'm surprised we're not flying through the corridors of this ship. Well, maybe next time. Inside the ship, several droids patrol a path. They pass some kind of circular pipe, completely unaware of the blue lightsabers that extend from it, and cut a circle for Anakin Skywalker and Sam Wilson to enter. Walking out into the hallway, Anakin saw the droid round a corner and out of sight. It's safe, Rex. Anakin motioned for Rex and the other clones to come out of the pipe. Roger that, sir, Rex said, and the gun went off. 5. Echo, the Stooge, and the Heavy all surrounded their escape route, while Anakin and Falcon stared down the hallway the droid had come from. Stay here and guard the entrance. This may be our only way out, Anakin ordered. Sam looked around the hallway and quickly voiced the question that was on both his and Skywalker's minds. Where do you think Chaos and Scott are? Anakin raised his wrist. I have Koth locked up. He's being held on the bridge of the ship. Where's Scott's Avenger ID? There's nothing over there, Falcon said, pulling out his own. Where's Hope? As if the universe wanted to answer this question, a small object flew into the present corridor and flew straight towards the Republic rescue team. Sam. Hope was completely relieved as he grew bigger in front of them. Hope, Sam exclaimed, and the two Avengers quickly hugged each other. Anakin, Rex, Domino. Hope saw the others. Her expression was indescribably happy. I'm glad to see you all come here to rescue. Glad to see you're safe, Hope, Anakin said, patting her shoulder and smiling. Miss Van Dyne. Rex and the other clones quietly respectfully. Guys, Hope gave the clone an appreciative smile. I think we are past that stage. I'm glad you're okay, Hope, Sam said. But what about Scott? Hope's expression darkened slightly at the mention of her boyfriend. He was being held in a solitary cell by one of that Dooku fellow's attendants. They took his suit and put it somewhere else on the ship. No doubt he was hoping to get his hands on my father's technology. Which waiter are we talking about? Chezo, the guy you and Natasha met on Nemoidia. Sam confirmed and Hope nodded. An entire army of droids and separatists with your abilities? Anakin muttered, not liking the idea at all. I know where the suit is, Hope said. Then we'll need 3 teams, Anakin said, looking to Rex. Rex, take 2 men and retrieve that suit. We can't let it fall into enemy hands. Echo, Stitch, you're with me, Rex said. 5. Secure our exit. Kix, go with Lieutenant Wilson. Yes, sir. Where? 2. Miss Hope. Rex corrected himself. She walked up to Rex, held up her ID card, and tapped Rex's comms. There, the location has been locked down, Hope said, and Rex nodded in appreciation. Hope. Sam began. You go with Anakin, and bring Koth back here. I'll get Scott out of his cell. Hope blinked at this. Are you sure, Sam? What if we run into Chezo? If we meet her, we will take special care of her, Sam said confidently. She tried to object, but Anakin placed a hand on her shoulder and turned her toward him. He'll be fine, Anakin assured, and Hope didn't respond for a moment until she nodded. As teams formed and separated, they hurried to their respective destinations. Chapter 235 Rescue Operation 2. Captain Rex raced down a long corridor toward his destination, with Echo and Stooge close behind him. They knew they were inside an enemy ship, and while a more subtle, quieter approach would have been better, the noise that 3 separate groups were about to make, well, caution is advised on this point. So what's the plan, Cap? Asked the Stooge as they raced towards their goal. Rex didn't respond at first, thinking about his thoughts on their plan. This was a very important technology, and if the Separatists got hold of it, one of the advantages the Republic had always enjoyed would fall into enemy hands. To say that the tide of the war had turned drastically would be an understatement. The captain of the 501st looked back at his 2 brothers, then pulled out a small disc with a blue glow in the center. If all goes well, we'll have a check and balance, Rex said confidently, throwing the disc into the air so he could catch it and hold on to it. Just don't waste it or lose it, for that matter. What do you take me for? Rex grinned, but still shot back. He recalled the time when Scott handed him a unique expansion and contraction disc, which he said was for use in emergencies. Whether this qualifies remains to be seen. Elsewhere on the ship, Sam Wilson and clone medic Kix were running down their own corridor toward the ship's containment chamber. Unlike the rest of their companions in the rescue operation, Falcon and Kix encountered resistance when they arrived at the detention area. Sam extended a pair of wings around him as a defensive barrier, and he and Kix slowly made their way down the hall to Scott's cell, shooting down multiple droids in the process. They were close. Just one more turn and they might find him. Kix was about to go around to the next corridor, but Falcon held out his arm, signaling to wait, and raised his tactical wrist pad. Pressing the top button, Sam's bird-shaped drone, the Red Wing, was deployed. It floated in front of the next corridor for a moment, before returning to Sam, hovering between him and Kix. Sam had Red Wing take a quick photo of the defenses in the hallway, and saw their firepower deployment through his goggles. So, what should we do? Kix asked. Falcon readied 2 missiles from his wingsuit, and typed a few commands for Red Wing. Go in, Sam said. Red Wing will split us up, and I'll take care of the 2 mana guards. You focus your fire on the rest of the droids. I'll be with you. Kix simply nodded and managed to climb up the opposite wall without being spotted by the robot, waiting for the Falcon signal. There was silence for a moment, and then the Red Wing was sent in. It began firing rapidly at the robots, and all of them spotted it and were rattled by its bullets. While most of the robots were resistant to the slug throwers, one B1 robot had particularly bad luck and was shot several times in the neck. The force of the bullet was enough to dislocate the head and cause it to fall off, causing the robot to now raise its weapon in the direction of the Red Wing. Sam nodded to Kix, and the 2 ran in, weapons raised, and opened fire. Falcon fired 2 missiles at the mana guard, hitting one with full force, while the other took the brunt of the hit. Not wanting to be intimidated, Sam yelled at Kix to get out of the way and the clone fell to the ground. Sam was thankful that the hallway was large enough for him to deploy one of his wings, allowing him to slice right through the mana guards that were still standing. In the ensuing attack, Sam made sure to take out a few other droids, while Kix shot down the rest. As the fight ended, Sam helped Kix to his feet and the 2 nodded to each other before walking to the cell where Scott was supposed to be held. The cell door opened, revealing, "Hey, Sam. How's the hang?" Sam Wilson could only stare in amazement as his friend and comrade was held in the air by some kind of energy. While he was only wearing his briefs after a moment, Sam began to grunt loudly, and Scott gave him a flat look. Yeah, smile up, Birdman, Scott muttered as Sam and Kix came over to him. That crazy Chizo chick, she's the one who stripped me like this, and was going to do some weird things to me. You know, most people would kill to be in your position. Oh haha, Sam. That was funny. Now get me out of here before Catherine Trammell comes back. Who? We'll tell you later. Sam interrupted the medic. Kix, help me. I found him, sir. The two freed Scott from his restraints and the clone doctor injected some Bacta into Scott's neck, while quickly patching up and spraying Bacta over his body. It's that Kix. Scott groaned. You're my savior. Let's get started, said Sam. No doubt more robots will be here now. Where's my suit? Scott asked. Captain, Rex, Stooge and Echo are handling it. Kix told the Avengers. Oh, man, Scott lamented. I'm glad you guys were able to retrieve it, but I basically have to run around an enemy ship in my underwear. It could be worse, Sam said, walking over to pick up one of B1's blasters and handing it to Scott. You can be naked. Chapter 236. The smoothness is incredible. While 3 separate rescue attempts were underway inside Grievous' ship, the frigate that Obi-Wan had captured was brought over to the side of the Separatist vessel for boarding. This was expected, and Kenobi and Cody prepared the 212th for defense against the droid general. Remember, we need to keep Grievous on this ship until General Skywalker arrives. Kenobi ordered the clones around him, moving closer to where Grievous would board them. After entering the position, a loud crash was heard, indicating that the Separatist ship had docked with their ship. It wasn't long before 4 points of light appeared on the wall, moving in a circular motion. A moment later, the newly cut steel piece was pushed forward. Look out. One of the clones yelled as they all ducked out of the way. To be hit. This action proved to be a bit of a distraction for the Republic troopers, as a contingent of commando droids emerged from the newly opened hole and began firing at the clones. Kenobi leapt into support, deflecting and reflecting much of the enemy fire. Just then, several mana guards entered the ship, followed closely by Grievous. Spotting the GD general further down the hallway, Grievous pulled out a lightsaber and activated them. Kenobi, came the cyborg's grunting roar. Inside the Separatist ship, Anakin and Hope are running towards the bridge, as they haven't encountered any droids yet. How are we doing? Hope asked the GD, raising his wrist communicator to track Koth's location. We are close. At the corner, the two encountered 6 robots, and they took out their respective weapons and went to work without hesitation. Back on the Republic ship, Kenobi is surrounded by mana guards as he keeps an eye on the Separatist general. So, Kenobi, is everything going as planned? That depends on your perspective, General. Several mana guards lashed out with their electro staffs, prompting the GD to turn and block the attack, before retaliating in his own way. As one droid lunged for its weapon, Kenobi dodged the blow as it struck another droid in the chest. As it spasmed from the continued electricity coursing through its systems, Obi-Wan hacked it apart. You don't come here without a plan, and you don't come alone, Grievous pointed out. Tell me, do you think Skywalker can save Master Koth? Or your fellow Avenger? On the bridge of the Separatist ship, tactical droids were watching the battle taking place outside. It had reached a stalemate of sorts, with neither force making any real progress. The CI's forces were doing everything they could to bring down the Republic forces. Given the numbers they had, they could have ended this battle much sooner. The door to the bridge parted, and several dismembered pieces of droid slid across the floor, before coming to rest behind the tactical droid. Turning around, it saw General Skywalker of the GD Order and the Wasp of the Avengers entering the area. What? A surprise, isn't it? Anakin said loudly. Not quite, as the tactical droid finished his words. About a dozen commando droids jumped up from the downstairs and landed around the 2 Republic soldiers, their weapons pointed at them. Well, at least they are not destroyer droids, Anakin said. Yeah, at least they are not like that, a female voice said, making Wasp nervous from the lower level of the bridge. The Sith attendant Chazoniva walked up the ramp, her yellow eyes glaring specifically at the Avengers, with Been waiting for you. The General's description of your tactics today was 100% accurate, the tactical droid said. Even by my standards, it was very impressive. Hope was worried now, her eyes switching between Chaos and Niva. I would have thought you would be protective of Scott with the way you act around him, Hope said, causing Chezo to laugh maniacally. Oh, did you see that? Chezo said with a mocking, coy look. What? You don't like my hands on your boyfriend? Wasp's emotions exploded at this, her expression now murderous, all fear ignored. You. No, I got it back. The Wasp stepped up, eyes fixed only on the waiter. I'm glad you're here. I wish I could kill you myself. Knock your head right off your shoulders for putting your hands on my man. Anakin stared at Hope for a while and was frightened by this aggressive Hope. He even felt him sweating nervously. I want to see what you can do, Chezo said challengingly, igniting her lightsaber. Meanwhile, Captain Rex, Stitch, and Echo are blasting away at several droids in the ship's supply room. It is not heavily guarded, and most of the droids are B1S, and the 3 clones are able to defeat the droids with relative ease. The robots brought Ant-Man's suit here? Stooge wondered loudly after the last robot was dealt with. Why, maybe. He thought the suit wasn't that important, Echo said with a shrug. That doesn't seem right, the Stooge retorted. We've seen how insane the Avengers' technology and abilities are. I would have thought they would have kept it somewhere more secure. That just means we're lucky, Rex said, opening a box, which indeed contained Scott Lang's supersuit. Rex quickly grabbed it, folded the suit as neatly as possible, and tucked it under his arm. Let's go, Rex said, and Echo and Stooge just nodded silently and followed their captain, General Skywalker. Rex said over the comms. Lieutenant Wilson, our objective has been accomplished. On our way back to the dusk. That's good to hear, Rex, Sam replied. We found Scott, and he's on his way back. Any news from the General? Rex asked. Nothing so far. Rex just shook his head. He wanted to think his general was alright, but knowing him, he was in the middle of a fierce battle, and he just hoped they could go on this mission without Grievous finding out they were on his ship. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Obi-Wan and Grievous and -039, Battle. Speaking of Grievous, Kenobi had some difficulty blocking, parrying, and dodging attacks from electric staffs and opposing lightsabers, trying to find ways to gain a better advantage against his opponents. Your plan has failed, GD Knight, Grievous taunted harshly. I hear much talk, General, Kenobi countered, fending off more attacks from the Mana Guard. But what does it get you? A futile pursuit of power, a mutilated body, and your position as Dooku's errand boy. I'm not some errand boy, and I'm not in this political battle for Dooku. I'm the leader of the most powerful droid army the galaxy has ever seen. An army without loyalty, without spirit, only programming, the GD corrected, for he saw an opportunity. With a sweep of his legs, he uprooted a Mana Guard from its feet and sent it tumbling. Before it could hit the ground, Obi-Wan cleaved it in half and grabbed its electrical staff with his free hand. Without losing any momentum, he turned and stabbed the Separatist weapon into the final Mana Guard, short-circuiting it and disabling it. What abilities do you have to demonstrate? The GD Knight questioned. Grievous gave his answer shortly, after separating his 2 arms into 4, which grabbed 2 more lightsabers before igniting them. The future. A future without GD. The cyborg general rushed forward, lightsaber spinning in his hands. Kenobi quickly blocked a few blows with his lightsaber, and raised his electric staff, to stop the incoming blow. It only worked a little bit, as the weapon of choice was destroyed. Before another lightsaber could arrive, the GD Knight leapt over his opponent. The moment he landed, he was kicked in the back, causing Kenobi to fall to the ground. The story of Obi-Wan Kenobi ends here, as the GD Master shook his head to regain his bearings. Anakin and Hope were still surrounded by commando droids and an attendant with his lightsaber at the ready point during that time. The tactical droid shocked Koth violently several times, to prevent any movement of the two. Anakin stepped forward, but Koth was shocked again. One more step and your friend will die, the tactical robot said with a mechanical smile. To show its gloating point frowning, Anakin held out his hand, but what the GD didn't expect was that Chezo used his own force push, speeding up the droid and crashing into Anakin point in an instant. Wasp fired her upgraded stinger at the two commandos closest to them, then shrunk down. The tactical droid thrown at Anakin was cut in half after he recovered to destroy the other droids. Chezo moved forward, her eyes trained on the Wasp's tiny speck, and began swinging her lightsaber in several arcs. Hope weaved in and out of each swing, narrowly avoiding the crimson blade. A final horizontal swing that Chezo missed caused Hope to fall off her wings and fall to the ground. Point she quickly grew to her full size again and delivered a swift uppercut to the waiter's chin point. Although she fell to the ground, Chezo managed to sit up and released a burst of the force that sent Hope flying back. Point thankfully, Wasp reflexively shrank back and she stayed in the air, flying towards Chezo, only to be intercepted by a commando droid that managed to aim at her. She dodged the droid's sword and was joined by Chezo moments later. She was now moving around the two blades that were meant to kill her, moving between them at the same time. As the commando droid was closer, Wasp flew directly onto its head and fired both of her stingers, blasting two holes in the mechanical humanoid's face. After a moment, it fell over, motionless. Hope then retreated in midair, looking back to see Anakin blocking Chezo's lightsaber with his own. You have two enemies to watch out for, waiter, Anakin growled, pushing his lightsaber back and clashing with her a few more times. Wasp then flew forward, circling Chezo, attacking her repeatedly. The attendant shook in agony, gritting her teeth, until she saw Anakin turning around and gaining momentum, intending to split her in half. Staggering, she raised her lightsaber just in time to meet the onslaught. With Anakin's own strength, plus some boosts from the Force, Chezo was sent back to the lower level of the bridge. She fell hard to the ground, and a second later, she collapsed, motionless. With Chezo and the commando droids dealt with, Anakin and Hope were at Koth's side, the former using his lightsaber to break Master Zabrak's restraints. Falling into Hope's arms, Ace grunted in pain, but patted Hope to express his gratitude. He said in a strained voice, "Where's Grievous? If all went according to plan, he should be aboard Obi-Wan's ship." Anakin said he was caught. Koth asked hopefully, "If we can cut off his escape, that's possible," Anakin declared. "Where's Scott?" "Sam found him," Hope said. "Now let's get you out of here." Hope and Anakin began to leave the bridge with Master Koth by their side. What they didn't realize was that a Sith attendant began to move. Point after a moment, the yellow eyes opened, filled with sinister intent. Point with that part of the quest complete, the final aspect is dealing with Grievous. Suffice it to say, Obi-Wan still faces some difficulties, as the general seems determined to kill him. Grievous brought down his lightsaber and nearly chopped Obi-Wan into several pieces, but the Jedi used the Force to help move his body away from the fatal blow. Landing a few meters away, Kenobi didn't have the proper time to catch his breath as he had to jump away from the incoming attack. The opposing lightsaber slashed through much of the nearby equipment as Obi-Wan put a lot of effort into fighting the Jedi killer. Clashing their weapons together, Obi-Wan was forced to bend back, gathering most of his strength so that Grievous wouldn't take up more of his personal space. "Your friends will die, Kenobi, and you will soon follow. You are a fool if you truly believe that," Obi-Wan said, re-engaging his enemy with renewed vigor. As he turned to dodge another powerful thrust, Obi-Wan saw the prone body of the Managard a few meters away. Using the Force, he threw the dismembered droid at Grievous. The blow was surprising, causing the Separatist general to crash directly through the pilot's seat in the front window. As he was about to stand up, Grievous saw Kenobi's blue lightsaber approaching his face. "Surrender, General." "No way." Grievous swung his lightsaber, knocking Obi-Wan's weapon away. Rather than continue their current fight, the droid leaped off the Jedi general and fled on all fours. Obi-Wan quickly gave chase, not wanting the Separatist droid to escape, but was too late as the door in front of him closed, and it seemed that Grievous had locked him inside. He shoved his lightsaber through the door as he contacted the rescue team. "Anakin, Sam, I want you two to rescue Master Koth and Scott, because Grievous is going back to his ship." Chapter 238, Cunning Grievous. On their side, Sam, Scott and Kix link up with Captain Rex, Stooge and Echo, with Ant-Man now in his suit again, awaiting the arrival of Anakin and Hope, with Koth reportedly following him. Suddenly, the group got nervous when they heard the sound of running. Here we go. 5 called out as both Avengers got into ready positions. They realized the clink of metallic footsteps came from one corridor, so they pointed their weapons primarily in that direction. The metallic footsteps grew louder and louder, until finally, several rows of men gathered around the corner, their wrist blasters raised. Sam reflexively turned his back to the robot, his wings spread. The clones used Sam's wings as cover and fired at the droids, taking out the first few louder in front. Ant-Man leaped to his feet, shrank back, and ran toward the robot. Using the increased strength of his shrunken frame, Scott leaped into the air and brought his knees to his chest point. After reaching his first super battle robot, Scott placed his feet on its oval head. The piece dented heavily inward, and the robot fell to the ground. Using the robots as a platform, Scott begins leaping from one to the next, destroying or disabling them with each attack. The chaos he sows between the robot lines is exploited by Sam and the clones, and the former retracts his wings. All 6 stood together and unleashed a torrent of non-stop blaster fire, destroying the remaining droids. With the area temporarily secured, the clones and Avengers checked themselves out, mostly unharmed. Except for Scott, who quickly grew back to normal size and slumped against the wall, sliding to the ground, breathing heavily. "Scott, are you okay?" Sam walked over to him, with Kix and the other clones surrounding him. Ant-Man's helmet retracts to reveal a tired Scott lying with sweat on his forehead. I'm fine." Scott waved his hand, wiping the sweat off his face. "I guess I shouldn't have jumped into a fire like that after that shock treatment, right? For God's sake." Falcon and Kix helped him to his feet. "Let's get you aboard." Hearing this, Scott shook his head and pushed them away. "No," Scott said fiercely. "I am not leaving until Ace, Cos and Hope come back." He gave the clone a wry smile. "Don't worry, Anakin. It's a safe bet that he'll force himself back no matter what." "Scott." Sam's voice was firmer this time. "Look, I know you can still fight, but for how long? Will you leave the captain behind?" Scott's question undoubtedly silenced Falcon, and the former criminal looked at the clone. "Or will any of you leave your brother behind, the general or Ahsoka?" He was met with silence that made him grin tremblingly. "That's what I think," Scott said. "I'm going to be fine, if you say so." Sam wasn't sure, but decided to let the matter go for now. "Anakin, Hope, what's your status?" Falcon said, fingers on his receiver. "We're waiting for you to Ankoth." The response they got was Anakin Skywalker sounding a little nervous. Hearing this, Rex quickly spoke up. "General, is everything okay?" Led by Anakin, Hope, and Koth, the fearless heroes are currently dueling with a very determined waiter, who is apparently recovering quickly. "I'm having trouble here," Anakin grunted, holding back a vertical blow. Hope was behind him, supporting Koth as they tried to get back to the boat as quickly as possible. "Let me pass, GD Knight," Chezo said, her eyes gleaming with mania. "You are not someone I wish to kill." "Yes, I'm sorry, but this really cannot be allowed," Anakin quipped, pushing her away and clashing with her a few more times. "Look, Hope has become my friend, and I would rather cherish my friends and see them live a fulfilling life than have it interrupted by some hypocritical Sith." Chezo simply grinned and struck Anakin's lightsaber with his own, using a powerful force-enhanced swing. Anakin gritted his teeth and stepped back slightly, which was the opportunity Chezo was looking for as he kicked the GD in the stomach. He fell to the ground, raising his lightsaber, but it was all in vain as Chezo ran past him towards Hope and Koth. "Hope," Anakin called to her. She looked behind her, and KO stupidly did the same thing, and was about to use her stinger when Chezo lunged at her. However, Chezo seemed to be suspended in midair and struggled to move. Hope looked past the Myrialan attendant and saw Anakin reaching out his arm, using the force to hold Chezo in place. Taking advantage of the opportunity Anakin gave her, she fired a disc into Chezo's chest, which latched onto her and released an electric shock that completely incapacitated Chezo. "Come on," Hope called to Anakin. "We have to keep moving." Anakin's brow furrowed. Yeah. Oh, come on. Koth is being tortured here. Hope shot back, shocking Anakin at the realization. Yeah. Sorry, don't worry. Ko said with a painful smile. Hold on a little longer, Koth, Hope said, and now she and Anakin were assisting Koth again. I wonder if Obi-Wan has captured Grievous, Anakin said. Point currently, inside Obi-Wan's ship, the remaining clones were still dealing with a small group of droids that remained in the corridor. Commander Cody led a small group of clones to assist in clearing out the Separatist forces in a nearby corridor. Just as the last of them piled up, the commander's wrist arm went off. Cody. Hearing Kenobi's voice, he responded immediately. Yes, sir. Grievous is heading your way. Point at the mention of the droid general, Cody heard a series of loud clanking noises getting closer and closer. And he wasn't the only one, as the rest of the clone troopers pulled out their blasters just in time to see Grievous slide into the hallway they were currently in. The clones fired a barrage of blaster shots, doing their best to hit the droids. However, it was all in vain as the fearsome GD killer pulled out 4 lightsabers and ignited them, deflecting the incoming bullets. He quickly passed the clones, still using his lightsabers, to give himself some defense. After getting some distance from the clones, Grievous contacted one of his ship's B-1 commander droids. Open fire on the Republic ship. Aim for their engines. But, sir, the ships are still connected. That's alright. Get all our forces ready for our landing at Seleucame. The order was given, and Grievous saw the airlock hole he had made when he arrived earlier. Once he passed through there, Grievous could be in a somewhat safe area. But before he could reach its final stop, he was struck from behind. For the briefest moment, he thought it was Kenobi using the Force to hold him back. That was not the case, as he felt a shock of electricity course through parts of his system, and he was yanked back roughly. Stumbling, the fearsome GD killer glanced back and saw that the clones of the 212th Legion were pulling with all their might on a grappling line that held him in place. It wasn't long before a clone of the 212th Legion broke free from the others and rushed forward, lunging at the droid general. He roared in anger, spun away from the clone, and then cut the cord with his lightsaber. Freed, the Separatists ran back to the airlock. As it approached its destination, the Republic ship shook violently as the spacecraft sustained considerable damage. Grievous leaned against the wall for support, looking to the side and making eye contact with Kenobi. He glared at his opponent, briefly tempted to continue their fight, but chose not to, as he needed to get off the ship immediately. Going through the airlock, Grievous already knew that Kenobi and the clones were giving chase, as they didn't want to lose track of him. Midway through the docking tube, the Republic shook violently again, causing everyone inside to fall to the floor as the tube was still connected, especially Grievous as the docked ship lost its stabilizers. As the tube tilted downward, Grievous slid down. When he turned, he saw Kenobi with his lightsaber raised, ready to cut him down. When he was close enough, he would have died if he hadn't ignited his own lightsaber to block the fatal blow. Grievous quickly stood up and fought back against the GD general before the connecting tube began to shake again. In a brief moment of distraction, Grievous kicked Kenobi away, then crawled on all fours and climbed aboard his ship. Standing on the other side of the docking tube, Grievous glared at the GD. I hope we meet again, Kenobi. After gloating, Grievous fled as he searched for the nearest escape ship that he could use to enter hyperspace or onto Seleucame's surface. Chapter 239, Fall of the GD. As Grievous left, the docking tube began to break away and severed its connection to the Republic ship. Kenobi and many of the clones quickly grabbed anything they could hold onto as the tube opened up to the cold vastness of space. Some of the clones were unable to hold on very well as they were sucked away, drifting away and suffering a painful death. Cody didn't want him and the others to die, so he pulled out his grappling gun and fired at the airlock of the Separatist ship, firmly connecting, and everyone left in the docking tube grabbed the ropes and climbed out. Finally, the last of them succeeded, and Cody closed the airlock so that everyone could finally get a brief respite. Kenobi was the first to recover and stand. Come on. We can still catch him, General, Cody said, stopping Obi-Wan from making his move. No doubt the others have completed their mission. If we go after Grievous now, we'll be stuck on the ship with nowhere to go. Knowing the clone commander was right, Kenobi decided to abandon his intention to hunt down the dreaded GD killer. Then, we better get moving, Kenobi said to the remaining clones. I believe there's a hangar nearby. We can get out of here in one of the gunships. Hopefully there won't be any more casualties. After receiving the new order, the group's minds flocked to their new destination. Walking around the corridor, Anakin, Hope and Chaos saw Sam, Scott and the clones of the 501st rushing to help them. It took you long enough, Falcon commented, turning to help Chaos. We're being chased by a psychotic Sith lady. Let's just chill out. Anakin shot back. Is that her? Number 5 pointed nervously behind them. Everyone turned behind them towards the hallway, where Hope and Anakin had just walked through, and saw standing there was none other than Chezo. Oh my god, do you enjoy following us so much? Hope yelled, now in irritation. Chezo just growled, raising her lightsaber to her face. If you want me to stop, you'll have to kill me. Sam stepped forward, pointing his weapon at her. Don't push us. The Sith attendant ignored the pilot Avenger and set his sights on Hope. It seems you don't understand how far I would go to find you, Chezo said, pointing his lightsaber at Hope. Hope found himself growing in anger now. I would want to get a restraining order against her, if that's not too much trouble, Scott muttered. Maybe we can get Matt and some of the senators to help move this along. Anakin made a note. Chezo suddenly burst into laughter, unsettling the group in front of her, and she stared at Hope, then back at the clones. She grinned and reached out, pulling them towards her with the force. The clones collided with the Avengers and GD in front of them, causing them all to stumble and fall to the ground. Hope landed before Chezo. She yelled as the waiter stepped on her hand, preventing her from instinctively shrinking. The Avengers looked up in time to see Neva holding a lightsaber and laughing maniacally. Goodbye. What Hope didn't expect was that Ace Koss used all his strength against Chezo, digging some of his horns into the Mirialan's chin and face. Chezo cried out in pain, pushing Chaos's face away as she brought her hands to her own face. You GD filth. Chezo grew murderously, grabbing Koth by the throat through the force, and without hesitation thrusting her lightsaber straight through the GD master's chest. The hallway suddenly went silent as the clones, the lone GD, and the 3 Avengers stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. Koss, Scott yelled, rushing toward him. Ouch. The Wasp yelled, glaring daggers at Kiriso. You fucking bitch. The Wasp immediately shrank back and flew straight at Kiriso at full speed, delivering a flying kick that hit the waitress in the stomach, sending her reeling backwards. Although she was now severely injured, Chezo still had enough strength to throw another force in front of her. Although broad in range, the thrust was enough to disrupt the Wasp's flight path. Chezo hurriedly stood up and ran as fast as he could. The Wasp prepared to chase him, and Ant-Man shouted, Hope, stop. She turned around and saw Chaos being helped up by Scott, and her expression darkened. She flew over to them and turned back to normal size, her helmet retracting back to reveal tears streaming from her eyes. Wait a minute, Ace, let us take you too. She was interrupted by Chaos, grabbing her hand and giving her a calming smile. Do not worry about my death, and do not cry about my death, Hope, Koss said softly. Though our time together may have been short, we fought together and won together. In that time, I saw how important you, Scott, and all of the Avengers were to the galaxy. The GD are lucky to have you as a friend. His eyes fell on Anakin and the clones, and he coughed nervously but kept smiling. And of course, our stupidly tough Skywalkers and our fearless clones. He said cheerfully. I know the galaxy is in good hands. Anakin said nothing, only clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. But it was short-lived, because he nodded to the dying GD master. Chaos nodded, then closed his eyes, his body limp and motionless. There was no exchange of words, nothing was said. Just the group staring at the body of Ace Chaos. Scott and Hope looked at each other, sad and full of regret. Come on. We need to get back to the dusk, Falcon said, grabbing Chaos' arm. Can I get some help here? Some of the current clones were quick to respond to Sam's request as they helped carry away the recently deceased. Even Anakin joined in, using the force to help lighten the load. It felt like an eternity to the group, even though it was only a few minutes, as they all made their way back to the dusk. When everyone was ready and safe, the Republic ship separated from the Separatist vessel. While on his way back to a Republic ship, Anakin had to contact Kenobi regarding recent events. It didn't take long for his master to answer. "What's going on, Anakin?" "I just received word from Admiral Yularen that several craft broke away from Grievous' ship and ended up in the waters of Saleucami, Master." "Kenobi?" Anakin said in a dark tone. "We rescued Scott and Hope from Grievous' ship." "Glad to hear that, Anakin," Obi-Wan said approvingly, though it took him a second to register Anakin's tone. And how another person had been left out of his report. "What happened to Koth?" "Dead," Anakin said in a bitter tone. "The Sith acolyte Chizonova was on the ship. She killed him just as we were getting ready to leave there." Look. Kenobi was shocked beyond words. "I'm sorry to hear that. He was a good friend." "Yes," Anakin said simply. "We are with him. We can't just leave him there. Then at least we can give him a proper burial when we return to Coruscant." "We can," Anakin said, his hands tightly gripping his controls. "Anyway, we need to get to the medical frigate. Scott needs medical attention." "Okay," Kenobi said. "We are now preparing to enter Saleucami's surface in hopes of capturing Grievous." The rescue team landed in a lifeboat from the Republic fleet, where medical personnel were awaiting their arrival. Once they landed, the back ramp opened, and Scott was helped down by Kix and Hope. Several clone medics took Scott into their hands, prepared a stretcher for him, and they carried him away, with Hope staying by his side. "We took a huge risk rescuing Scott and Kos," Sam said, crossing his arms and looking down in defeat. "This is a war," Kenobi warned in a grim tone. "Whether we like it or not, it will happen one of these days." I know. Falcon waved his hand. He felt a pat on his shoulder and looked at Anakin, who gave him an understanding look. "It's a hard loss to take," Skywalker said. Falcon nodded his appreciation and looked back at Obi-Wan. "You said Yularen saw several ships heading for the planet, correct?" Falcon asked, and Kenobi nodded. "Yes, several tanks and landing parties are ready." "Then I'll join you." "Me too." "No, Anakin." Obi-Wan refused. "You are needed here to lead the space battle. Sam and I will hunt down Grievous," Anakin said. "Are you sure you want to handle this yourself?" "We lines take care of it, Anakin," Obi-Wan said with a small smile. "We are going to get him," Sam said with a determined look on his face. "We are going to do it for Koth and all the Jedi and clones out there." "Good luck to you then, Falcon. We need it." "I'll allow it, just this once," Anakin said as he walked away, and Sam and Obi-Wan turned to the AT tank that was being prepared. "Let's go find that metal bastard." Chapter 240, Chase 1. Saleucami Point, an outer rim world that not many people even mentioned before the war reached this planet. General Grievous lured the Republic here after capturing the late Ace Kos and Avengers Ant-Man and the Wasp. Here they are hunted down, and a fierce battle ensues, culminating in Anakin, Sam, Rex, and Team Domino infiltrating Grievous' ship to rescue their comrades. Unfortunately, despite their initial success, the crazed Chizonova murdered KOs, snatching victory from the Republic. Now, after that unfortunate tragedy, both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Sam Wilson are determined to capture the Separatists' crazed droid general and bring him to justice. Although they would also love to have Chezo locked up in a cell, Grievous is now top of mind. On the planet's surface, Grievous is surrounded by his retinue of B-1 battle droids. "We have to find a way off this planet before they find us," the cyborg general said. He then looked overhead and saw a Republic cruiser flying in the air. "Kenobi, we need to hurry and find an escape pod." Their cruiser landed several kilometers away from Grievous's group, and a ramp was pulled out, releasing a number of smaller Republic vehicles. They poured out, and the clone troopers had to arrange everything, while the rest prepared to search for the Separatist leaders. Multiple AT-RTs, AT-TES, and speeders are deployed. Rather than splitting our forces to find all the escape pods, we should head for the wreckage of the landing transport. "Of course, General," Rex said. "Cody, spread them out," Kenobi said, turning to his second-in-command. "Yes, sir." Sam shook his shoulder as the troops began to march. "If you don't mind, guys, I'll do some reconnaissance on my own." "Of course." Kenobi gestured forward, and Sam ran forward, sticking out his elbows, then spreading his arms, wings popping out of his suit. Sam flew into the air, over the troops, deploying red-winged blackbirds and conducting reconnaissance. Some of the clones looked up at him with a mixture of awe and desire. While they have jetpacks, there's just something about the cool factor of having literal wings. Even though they may be mechanical, it's still pretty cool. I want to have wings like this, said Rex. Kenobi simply gave the clone captain an amused look as he and the other clones began to travel across the planet in search of the wayward droid general. Speaking of wayward generals, the battle droids have searched the escape pod for any supplies, and General Grievous is considering what to do next. Contact the fleet. Grievous barked at a droid inside their crashed escape pod. Sir, our launcher is destroyed, a B-1 robot said. Only one escape pod survived. We have to get there as soon as possible. Let's hope the transmitter is still intact, Grievous said before barking out orders. Now find me some transportation. During this process, the Republic troops continued their advance towards Salukami. On top of one of the Apters, Kenobi stood on the ground with a scope in his hand, surveying the terrain. Occasionally he heard the sound of thrusters overhead, and looked up to see Sam flying through the air. Sam, did you find anything up there? Obi-Wan asked over their comms in the air. Sam hovered for a while, waiting for the red-winged blackbird to return. The small bird-like drone flies over to its owner and settles itself on the back of the wingsuit. Nothing on my end, Sam announced. Found an escape pod disabled and destroyed. A lot of the terrain is destroyed. The pod must have had a bad landing. The GD master hummed loudly to himself. General Kenobi. Obi-Wan looked down from his AT and saw Captain Rex riding a speeder. Sir, the cruiser is back in orbit, Rex reported. Any sign of Grievous? The GD frowned and looked back through his scope for a moment until, I believe we have found his ship, Kenobi announced. Sam? Yes, I understand. All along, riding on one of the planet's native wild animals, Grievous overheard the complaints of many of the droids around him. It was really annoying. Battery low. Need to shut down. I can't go on any longer. Sir, we need to recharge. Stop doing this. How come your power batteries are depleted so quickly? Grievous asked in a stern tone. You want to let us ride on this creature with you, sir? The B-1 droid was silenced by a swing of Grievous' lightsaber, which quickly split the droid in two. Anyone else? The general threatened. The robots stopped complaining, as none of them wanted to risk being destroyed. That's what I thought, he said, deactivating his lightsaber. Now let's find that pod. The robots continued their trek along with their grumpy general. Meanwhile, Republic forces arrived at the crashed Grievous ship, trying to find anything useful. The clones either lifted the ship or sifted through the wreckage of the craft, finding nothing but abandoned droids scattered throughout the area. On the ship, Cody, Rex, Obi-Wan, and Sam are conducting their own investigation on the ship. The hot shell intake is still hot, Cody announced from the area he was inspecting. That couldn't have happened a long time ago. The crew module is almost completely destroyed, Rex said, walking up to the GD general. We will split into teams. Rex, take Jess, Hardcase, and Kix and search those wetlands, Obi-Wan ordered. Yes, sir, Rex said, looking back at Jess and pointing his head at several nearby speeders. Cody, you, Sam and I check from here. Rex, if you can see Grievous, please don't act rashly, contact us first, Kenobi added, and Rex just nodded. Rex is a wise man, Kenobi said, but let's not forget who his general is. Hey, we Avengers are pretty reckless ourselves, you know that, Sam said. And you're no saint yourself, Obi-Wan. Kenobi just gave him a wry look, but Cody chuckled to himself. Waxmaker and Seething are investigating the robot wreckage with Weeping, who are kicking the scrapped robots around while Seething is huffing in annoyance. How are we going to get anything out of all this scrap? Seething asked loudly. Weeping nodded in agreement, lifting up the top half of the B-1 robot. These robots are gone and can't give us any good intel, Weepy announced, tossing it aside. There must be something around here, Falcon said, looking around. The ship is still intact, all things considered. Nothing so far, Lieutenant, the clone trooper said apologetically, crying. The waxer glanced at a nearby escape pod with a cracked window, then walked over. While peering inside the pod, he spotted a still intact robot. His one, he announced, causing the others to gather around him. That's great, Falcon said, patting the waxer on the shoulder. Good job, man. Let's load the droid into the tank, Obi-Wan said, placing his hand on the glass casing. With a quick application of force, the glass shattered, and the hatch opened. We'll check it out on the way. Chapter 241, Chase 2. With Rex at his command, he led his squad of clones through the wetlands of Seleucami. Their formation was a loose diamond, with Rex at the head, Jess and Titan following behind, and Kix at the back with the doctor. Did you think we were going to find anything here? Jess asked. I don't know, Rex said. This place is a backwater planet. There's nothing to find here. As they searched forward, the troops were unaware that 2 commando droids ahead of them were hiding behind a hill. One of them was holding a sniper rifle, while the other used a scope and acted as a scout. The man with the sniper rifle stares at Rex through the scope, and the commando suggests he shoot. Once in range, Rex was suddenly hit in the chest by a blaster grenade, thrown back from the speeder, and fell heavily to the ground. Protect the captain, Jess ordered quickly, and Kix turned back to their captain, while the Titans and Jess chased down the 2 robots that shot Rex. Although they sprinted as fast as their robotic bodies could manage, Jess and the Titans caught up to the 2 and quickly took them down. Pausing on the fallen robots, Jess saw what they were. Commando droid, he said grimly, and, do you think Grievous is nearby? The Titan asked. Before they could discuss the matter further, Kix called them over. Jess, you'd better get back, he said in a serious tone, checking their captain point beside Obi-Wan. He was in the Apta tank with Cody and Weepy. Looking at the data they were receiving from the droid point, Sam chose to stay out there with the troops, occasionally flying into the air to scout ahead, or just talk to some of the clones. What did you find? Obi-Wan asked, standing behind Cody and crying. We have cracked the access code and activated the robot's guidance system, Weep told the general. According to its logs, he fired the emergency thrusters on his escape pod to avoid a mid-air collision, Cody added, holding up his datapad to Obi-Wan. What did you hit? Kenobi asked. Another escape pod, Weep said. There was no time to correct for the steeper glide path, and that's why this robotic pod crashed, Cody said. Can you identify the landing zone for the other pod? We can limit the search area to 2 to 3 kilometers, sir, Cody said confidently. With a satisfied smile, Obi-Wan nodded. Alert those people, we've got the scent. As the 212th and 501st Lucky out, 3 more clones surrounded the fallen Captain Rex, while the group's medic finished assessing the injuries. How bad is it? Jess asked concernedly. It's bad. I need to take his armor off to see the full damage, Kix said very seriously. Those snipers may have called for backup, the Titan said, looking around just in case that might prove to be true. We should probably find better cover first, unless we want to start getting shot at one by one. Jess nodded as he looked up to see several full-egged native creatures nearby. They seem close to us, Kix pointed out. Most animals would flee at sight. Jess squinted at the creatures. Wait a minute, those critters are domesticated. What? The Titan asked doubtfully. I think we're in the fields now, where there are farms, usually farmers, Jess said. Let's go find his house. How did you know? Asked the Titan. Simple brother, Jess said in a sly tone. You are like a burden, thinking only with your blaster. I usually keep myself busy looking for something that might be useful to us. Oh, so that one time you read about farming, and it turned out to be useful, the Titan shot back jokingly. I'll have you know I've always been interested in farming, Jess retorted, shaking his finger. Seems like a decent living after all this is over. They got out a collapsible stretcher, placed Rex on it, attached it to Kix's speeder, and they headed off in the direction where most of the quadrupeds seemed to have come from. Lo and behold, there was a house and barn nearby among the crops. The moment they paused, the front door of the home burst open, revealing a pink-skinned Twi'lek woman pointing a sniper rifle at them. We don't want any trouble here, the farmer said. It's easy with that weapon, Jess said. We are friends. The farmer's eyes lingered on Jess's as the clone removed his helmet. Tell me your story, she said, pointing her rifle at Jess. Our captain is injured. I'm not a doctor. So it's just we have a doctor, Jess said soothingly. We just need a place to take care of him overnight. Before the Twi'lek woman could respond, Mom, who both of you go back, she said to the two young children who came out of the house. Oh, Mom. The two children said in a daze, lowered their heads, and went back into the house. She relented and gestured toward the barn with her rifle. Look, there are some benches in the barn. It's the best I can do. That's great, thank you, Jess said with a pleasant smile. They quickly took their captain into the barn and removed his armor from him. Placing him on the bench, Kix began applying wound dressing to Rex's back and the areas where he had been hit. As he placed the patch on the wound, Rex woke up. What happened? Rex asked groggily. The commando droid fired a shot that would have gone straight through your heart if it had been even 2 centimeters to the left, the Titan said as Kix placed a hand on his shoulder to make sure Rex lay down. I can't move my arm, Rex said worriedly. You have some neurological damage, Kix said. Got it, Rex groaned, turning sideways. Now let's get on with it. Sir, there are no conditions here. It will heal, but it will take time, Kix said in a firm tone. We are fighting, Kix. That's an order, Rex said in a serious voice. Sir, as the team doctor, I'm more important than anyone else when it comes to the health of people, including you, Kix said calmly. So I respectfully order you, sir, to get some. With a slight cough, the Twi'lek woman appeared in the barn, holding a plate full of fruit. I'm sorry if that's not enough. That's enough. Thank you. Jess said politely. So, suddenly, a hoverball flew into the barn and her daughter rushed in. I told you to stay in the house. I couldn't help it, Mom. It got away, the young girl said, then stopped in front of the clone captain. The girl looked at Rex, causing the captain to give her a curious look. What's wrong? Rex asked with a little discomfort. You look like my dad, the Twi'lek girl said happily. Shay, don't bother the soldiers, Sue scolded her daughter. Now go inside with your brother. Yes, Mom, Shay said a little lazily as he left the barn. My husband is out delivering our first harvest. Do you need anything else? Sue asked in a more friendly tone than her previous hostile introduction. No, thank you, Sue, Jess said, nodding, as Jess placed the bowl of food next to Rex and took some for himself, Kix, and the Titan. The group's medic placed one of the captain's blaster pistols within his reach. Don't worry about me, just keep searching, Rex ordered. Jess, you take charge. I'll be fine. The others nodded and left Sue's farm while Rex fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 242 Deserter. Hey, Kenobi, Falcon called over the comms. I think I found the escape pod. Any sign of Grievous? Wait a minute. After dropping from the sky, Sam checked the escape pod and found it empty. There's no one here, but I found some traces heading west. Where does it lead to? Probably towards the second escape pod. That's all I can think of. Kenobi nodded his understanding and activated his risk arm to contact Anakin's clone captain. Captain Rex, I got it. There was no response at first until I'm Jess, sir. Rex is injured. This made Kenobi pause in surprise and worry. Cody looked at him, his eyes fixed on Kenobi, and said to Jess, how is he doing? He'll be fine, but we have to find him a place to stay for the night. Grievous is on the move, Obi-Wan told the clone. We are going to go west. Circle around so we can meet at the last escape pod. We are going to need all the firepower we can muster. Roger that, sir. We are coming right up to you. As the Republic forces regrouped, the droid general grew increasingly annoyed at their apparent lack of progress against the droid's constant groaning and their waning power cells. We should be here by now, Grievous said, clearly fed up with his current situation. Oops, said a B-1 robot as it lost power along with several others. You better interpret the coordinates correctly, Grievous shouted threateningly. Before the B-1 robot could reply, it deactivated and went into shutdown mode. As it crouched down into a prone position, the B-1 closest to it took the datapad from its hands. We're almost there, sir. Go straight, the robot said, until it shut down a moment later. As the robots lose power one by one, a clone captain lies in a barn when one of the residents gets a little curious. It hovered over the clone, sniffing him with its trunk, which caused Rex to wake up, and the creature licked his cheek several times. No, 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 said Rex, managing to push the creature away, even though his face was now completely covered in drool. He groaned in irritation, wiped the saliva from his face, and tried to fall asleep again. As he did so, he heard something else. Rex thought it was another farm animal, but it wasn't, because he heard footsteps getting closer. It was slow and careful. Not to mention he heard something scraping against the barn door, as if it was being picked up. As the presence got closer, Rex's hand slowly made its way to his blaster. As soon as the newcomer came in, the clone captain pulled out his weapon. Before he could fire, it was knocked out of his hands by the farm implement. "Who are you?" the man holding the farm implement said. He took a closer look at the clone captain and almost roared. "What are you doing here?" It took Rex a moment to register who was holding the farm implement in front of him. "You're a clone." After this announcement, the clones in front of Rex paused. "So, I see the war is finally over here. I think I'll have some droids visiting soon. What is your number and rank?" Rex asked. "Okay, my name is Leokun." The clone introduced himself. "Apart from my identity as Leokun, I'm just an ordinary farmer." "You're a deserter," Rex said accusingly. "Well, I guess I'm just exercising my freedom of choice, choosing not to kill people for a living." Carter Lorcan calmly scolded as he turned on the lights in the barn. "That's not your choice," Rex countered. "You swore an oath to the Republic. You have a duty." "I have a responsibility." "You're right," Carter said. "But it's for my family. Does that count? Or are you still going to hand me over?" "Do I have a choice?" The tension in the air was broken when Shay burst into the barn with a huge smile. "Dad, you're home." Carter simply crouched down and hugged her tightly. "Look what I drew for you, Dad," Shay's brother said. Carter laughed when he saw his son's drawing and rubbed his head affectionately. "Well, okay, that's great, Jack. I see you two have met." Sue pointed from the entrance of the barn. "He looks just like you, Dad. I told him," Shay said with a smile. You did it, didn't you?" "I just asked our guest, Captain. What's your number?" "Rex. I have a name too, believe it or not," the clone captain said, making Carter laugh. "He was injured. His men brought him here. I told him he could stay overnight," Sue said. "Of course he can. We never turn away people who need help, do we?" Shay said. "No, we always help anyone we can," Jack said, and his sister nodded. "Good." Carter turned to the captain. "You look hungry, Rex." "No, I'm fine. I'm staying here." Rex's arm was grabbed by Jack, who now shared a hopeful expression with Shay. "No, you have to eat with us. Please, please," she pleaded, eyes wide and lower lip pursed. Carter laughed. "They'll never stop until you say yes." Rex sighed, realizing that he had no suitable way out. "Okay, I'll go with you." "Oh, great," both children shouted triumphantly. Entering the Lorcan home, the children were setting the table while their parents prepared dinner. All the while, Rex sat at the table, occasionally being stared at by the children. As time went on, Rex paid more attention to the appearance of the Twi'lek children. They had basic Twi'lek physiology, but with some additions that made them look like hybrids. This makes Rex wonder if the clone deserter is their father. But this only confuses him, as they seem too old for this to happen. He was pulled from his thoughts when Carter came to the table with a roasted small animal. The deserter used fork and knife to start cutting it into small pieces and served it to the family. "Now, to continue our previous conversation, you and I may be clones, but we are still individuals. You have a name instead of a number, Captain." "Why is that?" Carter asked, placing some food on Rex's plate. "Perhaps our leaders feel this is a more effective way to differentiate us," Captain Rex said. "More efficient than numbers? I doubt the Kaminoans think so," Carter said in a knowing tone. "Have any Jedi ever referred to you by a number?" Rex was about to argue that, frankly, only he knew. He had yet to meet a Jedi who called him by number in addition to his rank and name. Dinner continued, unaware of Rex's internal dilemma. Still, a name has to make you feel unique, especially in an army where everyone looks and talks like you. Actually, I never thought about it, Rex shot back. Yeah, you didn't. Carter waved his hand. How did you know? Because I'm as close to you as any life form can be, Carter said as he approached the clone captain before leaving. I've seen how you look at my family, our home. Rex's eyes lingered on the children. Come on, Rex. You've thought about what your life would be like if you left the military too. Choose the life you want to live. What? If I choose the life I want? Rex said, more determined now. What if I stay in the military because it means something to me? What's the point? Shea questioned. Because I'm part of the most critical moment in the history of the Republic. If we fail, then our children and the children of so many others may be forced to live under evils that I cannot even imagine. Rex stood firm in his convictions. Of course, if you want to have the baby, but that's against the rules, isn't it? Carter pointed out. Captain, isn't that what you were led to believe? No, Carter. That's what I believe. Whether it's my child or someone else's. Does that qualify with your approval? Rex said bitterly. Well, to each his own. That's what I always say, Carter said, grinning at the captain's slightly frustrated mood. What does this mean, Dad? Shea asked. It means you can do whatever you want with your life, Carter said kindly, locking eyes with the clone captain, who looked away after a moment. Chapter 243 Deserted 2. As Republic forces closed in on Grievous' position, Kenobi wondered where X's group was currently. How are you, Jess? Obi-Wan said into his wrist communicator. Almost there, sir. Very good. We'll see you in the middle. Over there in the Separatist escape pod. Grievous was delighted to see it. He really wanted to get off this backwater planet and back into Separatist space. Hopping down from the animal he'd been riding for hours, Grievous addressed one of the B1 droids. Is your transmitter working? I don't know. I haven't used it yet. This caused the robot to be slapped on the head, causing it to fall to the ground. Okay, I'll go check it out. Stupid battle droid. The general growled, then looked at the droid that had entered the pod earlier. Send a distress signal to the rest of our fleet. Roger that. Roger that. But I must tell you, sir, there are multiple life forms approaching. This alerted the Separatist general, causing him to call out to his current troops. Fighting positions. Republic at RTs, AT&TES, and speeders soon arrived on the scene. They began firing at Grievous' position with just about anything they had in their possession in an effort to capture the Cyborg general. The battle droids responded quickly, with one in particular pulling out a rocket launcher and firing a round into the AT point. Seeing the projectiles coming towards him, he jumped off the transporter, landed on the ground, and ignited his lightsaber. He rushed forward with several other clone troopers beside him. One soldier quickly moved to the side when he saw a projectile coming towards him. He was nearly hit, but was called into the AT in order to shoot down the enemy projectile. Tank 2. Port side. The barrel of the main gun turned, and the gunner quickly aimed. The clone fired a round, destroying the projectile before it got close enough. Here you go. Grievous could only bark orders as blaster fire filled the air. Open those commando droids in the escape pods now. Then he spoke the burning question on his mind. Where is that ship? In a corner of Leo Kun's house, the Patriarch and his guests were playing games. Good move. Very good move. Carter commented on Rex's recent play against him. Why? What made me decide to leave the Corps? Carter leaned back in his seat and told his story. Shortly after the Battle of Geonosis, our troop transport was caught between two Separatist gunships. They fired at us with everything they had. We broke down. Most of us were either dead or badly wounded. So when they started slaughtering the wounded, I knew there was no hope. I ran. But it still haunts me. Sorry, that day I felt like my life had no meaning. Everyone I cared about, my team, was gone. I was just another expendable clone, waiting for my turn to be slaughtered in a war that meant nothing to me. Can you understand that, Rex? Rex just sighed and looked at the deserter seriously. I have fought in countless battles and lost many brothers. They are my family. Shay quickly walked up to her father, her brother not far behind her. Dad, we are done with our chores. Can we go out and play, please? Jack pleaded along with him. Sister Carter smiled. Okay, just a few minutes. Shay smiled. Thank you, Dad. Come on, Jack. You have wonderful children, Rex said as he saw the Twi'lek children running out of the house. Carter saw the look in Rex's eyes and remembered the look from before. If you're wondering, they are not mine. I just adopted them when I married their mother. Rex let out a chuckle. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Almost gave me a headache. Carter nodded, and they continued their game. Sowet, do you know about those Avengers? Rex blinked. Excuse me, you know who I'm talking about? Who are they? How do you know about them? Rex asked. This is a backwater planet. I may not be in the military anymore, but that doesn't mean I count myself out, Carter said. I make sure there's at least a semblance of what's going on in the rest of the galaxy. These Avengers have been appearing on the Holonet day after day for the past few months. Rex was silent and didn't respond at first, prompting Carter to ask, who are they, then? Rex pondered the question in his mind, thinking hard about this group of people who, frankly, had radically changed the lives of so many people in a short period of time. They are unique to say the least, Rex began. Actually, the word unique understates it. These guys are some of the craziest and possibly most powerful people I've ever met. Really? Carter leaned over, very interested. How powerful is it? Strong enough to not lose to any GD. They fight for what they believe in, Rex said, causing Carter to lean back in disbelief. What do you mean? I've seen them do things that I haven't seen the GD do yet, Rex said. Things that I can barely comprehend. Have you actually seen them? Carter asked, causing Rex to grin. It's more than that. I've been fighting alongside them for months now, Rex said, leaving Carter stunned. What are they like? The clone trooper turned farmer asked. I've been hearing some crazy rumors about what they can do. What did you hear? Some of them have power armor that's well beyond the pay grade that clones get from the Republic. Another one's in a blue costume and he fights with a shield. Well, that's Colonel Rhodes and Captain Rogers you were talking about, Rex said. Each of them is worth an army. Most of the GD are really, after what I've seen them do. Rex continued to tell Lorquin about the amazing feats he had witnessed over the past few months. Captain Rogers' combat skills and leadership qualities, while using his shield in an almost magical way. Sam Wilson with his wingsuit, playful mouth and creative flying combat style. Colonel James Rhodes is armored and has overwhelming firepower. Natasha Romanoff has movement-based assassin-based combat abilities. Then came even crazier powers that Carter couldn't fully comprehend. Petro's super speed, Scott and Hope's shrinking and gigantism, Peter's amazing dexterity and web swinging, and Matt Murdock's blindness do not hinder his combat abilities in the least. In fact, his senses are enhanced to the point of being unreal, as they allow him to gauge scenes and environments with precision and accuracy. From what they told me recently, there are 3 more somewhere in the galaxy. Wow. Carter muttered. Where the hell did they come from? They told me their planet was called Earth. At this point, Carter couldn't help but snorted loudly. They come from a planet called Mud. Rex laughed. They had a similar reaction after they told me and General Skywalker what they went through here. Captain Rogers told us there were more like them on their planet. Some were well known, and some were just waiting to show up. That sounds crazy. That's crazy, Rex said. You should have heard some of those rumors about them. You seem close to them, Carter noted, causing Rex to ponder. Is he close to them? He was willing to think so, considering how much they had endured together over the past year. They certainly treated him with great respect and kindness. Clone casualties had plummeted since they had been directly involved in the war, while casualties were high in battles like the one on Geonosis. The Avengers working with the GD and the clones allowed more people to survive. They have saved the lives of clones many times. I think even if they are not in the Republic, I can consider them friends. Really, Rex took a moment to nod. Yes, we are friends. We are comrades, Carter pondered. And what do you think they think of me? Since this was certainly not the question he expected. What will they think of Carter Lorquin, a clone trooper who chose to go from a life of war to a life of peace? I'm not really sure, Rex admitted. He thought of people like Steve, Natasha, Sam, and Peter. They, like the rest of the Avengers, got along well with all the clones for the most part. They were gracious and very friendly. They have been introducing the entertainment, food, and culture of their planet, and they have been saying that what they have so far is just the tip of the iceberg. I think, Rex said after a moment of silence. They will respect your choice in the end. Really? Carter was quite surprised by the reaction. Rex nodded. Yes. I think there are one or two people who might not agree with you leaving your duty, but find a new one. They'll accept it. Carter leaned back in his seat, thinking carefully about what Rex had said. If he was honest with himself, he wanted very much to meet these Avengers. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Deserter 3. Love is the Death of Duty. Rex blinked in confusion as he heard the word come out of Carter's mouth. Did you just come up with that? No. I heard this from a passing doctor when I first met Sue. When Rex was about to ask something, Carter responded. After thinking about it for so long, I believe the reverse also applies. Duty is the death of love. The clone then elaborated on his thoughts. We are clones. We are the shield of the Republic. No matter what, you and the rest of our brothers always try to do the right thing. You try to protect them from the greatest threat to their lives. But what will replace that threat once it's over? What purpose will we have after this war against the Separatists? It's a terrible thing to do, but it's also the right thing to do. Rex was silent, digesting the words. Before he could make much progress, the farmer continued. Perhaps one day you will make a decision, Rex. Choose between duty on one hand and the people you care about on the other. What will you do then? Do the right thing, no matter what, was Rex's response. What, then, is a man's duty compared with what you feel for your friend, your brother, your kindred? We are all flesh and blood. We all do our duty when it costs us nothing. It comes easy, and yet, sooner or later, in every man's life, there comes a day when it does not come easy. That is the day he must choose. Carter took one final step, winning the race for him. I know you think I'm a coward, Rex, but trust me, I will fight until my last breath, to fulfill my duty, to keep my family safe. The three adults' conversation came to an abrupt halt when they heard the children screaming, not out of joy, but out of fear. TSK. Ouch. Carter and Sue's faces turned pale, and they rushed out the door to see their children running out of the field and running towards their home with a completely coerced expression. As they approached, the parents hugged their children. What's wrong? Their father asked. Monsters. They are chasing us, Shay said, pointing at the field. What monster? Where is it, dear? Sue asked. They hatched from big eggs in the field, said their daughter, curious about what was going on. Carter grabbed the binoculars hanging from the door frame. He peered inside, looked over the field, and saw movement. It didn't take long for him to spot the monster the kids had seen not long before. Ah. This is not going well. I counted 20 commando droids. What are they doing? Rex asked. Carter did not answer, but spoke to his wife. Sue, take the children upstairs. Sue took her children with her. Come on. Come on, children. Come on. He walked to the door, locked it, and the clone captain asked the obvious question. What weapons do you have? Carter opened a cabinet, revealing only some farm tools, a sniper rifle, and a few blasters. We can catch them in a firefight, Rex said, handing his blaster back to him. No, Captain. With all due respect, you are not in charge here. Rex purred. Second could be of use. Sir, you're injured. You only have one good arm, Carter pointed out. But I can fight. So can I, the farmer retorted. Rex, I need you to be the last line of defense for my family. After a few seconds of silence, Rex acquiesced and went upstairs. I can take care of them. Carter smiled at his clone brother. Thank you. The clone farmer turned to leave, but Rex stopped him. Can you help me with something? Rex asked, surprising the clone. What? Carter asked, confused. Carter's expression was one of confusion when revealing what Rex wanted. The farmer quickly got to work. He turned off the lights, double-checked the locks, and equipped his home with weapons. He gave Rex what he asked for, and once that was done, he was ready for the commando droids to storm the front door of his home. He saw a shadowy figure pass through the bottom of the front door. Carter was about to fire before the back door was blown open. The clone farmer turned and fired at the 3 commando robots that came in. Carter kept a keen eye on where the robot would appear next. Suddenly, a metal arm burst out from the closed window and strangled the clone farmer. He was able to break free, then pulled out his blaster and shot his attacker in the head. He then stood up, raising his blaster in several directions to make sure he wouldn't have any more accidents. Carter then walked to a hatch in the front door. When he heard some creaking noises, he narrowed his eyes and carefully walked to the hatch, his blaster dragging on it while reaching for the hatch with his other hand. The moment the hatch opened slightly, it burst open and many commando droids poured out. As Carter stumbled back, he shot down one of the commando droids as the others began firing at him. Taking cover, the commando droids did not appear to be operating at peak capacity, as the shots they fired were random and uncoordinated. Unfortunately for Carter, this proved disastrous, as one of the shots struck a horizontal wooden post, which broke apart and fell right on top of the farmer, trapping him underneath it all. Carter struggled, trying to reach for his gun, but it was now jammed. He saw the robot walk past him and up the steps. "Rex, they're coming for you," Carter shouted to him. Captain Rex was simply prepared. One hand held his blaster pistol, and although his other arm was in a cast, that didn't mean he was unarmed. With Sue's help, she strapped on a makeshift shield made from a large flat piece of wood Carter had managed to get from the barn. Once the robots appeared on the steps, Rex rushed forward with his shield, blocking the blaster. He fired at the robots, hitting 2. The robot closest to him tried to fire at him, but Rex moved fast enough and used his shield to push the robot into the wall to immobilize it. Pressing the barrel of his blaster pistol against the robot's head, a moment later a large hole appeared in its skull. Suddenly, he heard crashing noises and children screaming from above. Rex spun wildly and saw 2 more commando droids drop from the roof and stand at the front of the room. Facing Sue and the kids, he quickly fired at them, taking one down as the other spun around and fired at the clone point downstairs. Carter was dealing with one of the last few robots in front of him. He had already swung a chair over its body, crushing one from inside, and then crushed another from the pieces the peasant had pried off. Carter was about to fire his blaster, but it was knocked away. In retaliation, he punched the robot in the head, but held back the pain before the robot could grab his head. In the upstairs hallway, Rex, in a crouching position, fired several shots, knocking down the robot in front of him. The robot accidentally fired a final bolt from its weapon, striking the ground between Rex's legs. A moment later, the floor beneath his feet collapsed. Rex fell beside Carter, but unfortunately, his blaster was further away from both of them. The last commando droid immediately grabbed Rex's head, and Carter tried to help Rex, but he was slapped aside. Rex desperately tried to free himself, searching his belt for anything, and grabbing a round disc. His eyes widened in shock at what he had just discovered, and he gripped it tightly and pulled it out. Better make this count. Rex struggled with his thoughts before managing to pry himself from the robot's grasp, kicking it away and slapping the object onto his attacker. After a moment, the commando droid disappeared from his sight. Carter was so shocked when he saw this scene that he dropped his jaw in disbelief. "Huh, what?" she muttered. Rex rubbed his neck and looked down. Rex also blinked. The commando droid looked around in utter confusion, not understanding and processing what was happening. But before it could do anything, the droid was crushed under Rex's boot. Rex exhaled tiredly and collapsed to the ground. Carter said, still with a look of shock on his face. "What just happened?" "It's a gift from a friend." "You have a friend?" Rex just smiled and rubbed his sore neck. "You have no idea, Dad." "Dad?" Jack shouted from the hole in the ceiling, with his mother and sister behind him. Carter looked up and smiled at his family. "I'm fine. It's over." Chapter 245 About Choice. As the fight raged, Grievous cut down a nearby clone trooper. As he looked around for Kenobi, his eyes fell on a Separatist transport plane flying overhead. Finally. "Come, General. Grievous, we see you down there. Are you ready to go?" a battle droid said over his comm. After cutting down several B-1 droids, Kenobi saw the Separatist ship that had just arrived on the scene. He already knew what was going on, so he gave the order. Concentrate your firepower on that ship. The Aptor moves its cannon and fires at the Separatist transport. Unfortunately it misses, but they might get another chance, since it's coming back. On the other side of the battlefield, Jess, Kix, and Titans are zooming in on their speeders. Jess fired a few rounds from his speeder, noticing the transport, and speaking to Kenobi over the comms. Sir, that ship is coming to try and land again. Hearing this, Kenobi gave orders to the Aptor clones. Keep firing. Don't let that ship get to shore. Then something unfortunate happened. The barrel is overheating. A clone trooper shouted. Always problems, Kenobi muttered, and rushed forward. Cody, Sam, Jess, cover me. The Avengers and clones obeyed, firing at the surrounding B-1s and commando droids. Grievous was so distracted, while blocking enemy blaster fire, that he didn't notice the GD general coming toward him, but one of his droids alerted him just in time. General, behind you. Grievous turned, just in time to block Kenobi with his lightsaber. Pushing the GD out of the way, the Separatist droid lurched forward, swinging his lightsaber at his opponent. Both men spun around each other, trying to gain the upper hand in the fight. At one point in their standoff, Grievous untied his cloak and threw it at Kenobi, hoping to temporarily obscure his vision. It barely worked, as Kenobi sliced through the cloak, before blocking his enemy's swing. Inside the Separatist shuttle, Chezo scoffs at the battle taking place below. Lower the ramp. The droid pilot complied, lowering the ramp in midair. Chezo walked up and stood at the edge of the ramp. She spotted a piece of debris near several droids that would be knocked out in a matter of minutes. They will undoubtedly corner the robot general. She called out with a force, lifting several pieces and throwing them in the direction of the clones. Shouts of shock and surprise filled the air, and Sam looked around frantically until an invisible force pushed him into the air, spinning him for a moment. It didn't take much for the robot general to figure out who was helping him. The Sith waiter said, "Grievous, we have to go." When the cyborg didn't respond to her, she used the force to leap into the air, landing on the escape pod before leaping back to the ship again. Do not attempt to land. Grievous ordered the pilot droid to climb aboard the escape pod. Once on top, he fired a grappling line that quickly attached to the Separatist's hull. Fire the engines. The Separatist ship moved forward, quickly grabbing Grievous and pulling him into the air. The clones opened fire on the Separatist general, who simply knocked the bullets back with his lightsaber. Goodbye, scum of the Republic. Sam went after them. As he got closer, he fired at the ship. However, as he spun in the air again, he was thrown off course. After stabilizing himself, he saw Chezo waving mockingly, while Grievous climbed aboard the ramp before it closed. The enemy ship was well beyond his reach, before he could pursue them again. I really hate that bitch. Sam roared loudly, his fists clenched tightly in anger back on the ground. Kenobi saw what had happened, and shook his head. Sir, are you okay? Cody asked from behind the GD general. No. We are back to square one, Obi-Wan said in frustration. Notify the cruisers. See if they can stop that ship. Right away, sir. Tell them to send someone to pick us up. Kenobi returned to the ground, and Sam joined him. This day isn't the best, is it? Falcon asked glumly. The GD master sighed and placed a friendly hand on Sam's shoulder. No, I can safely say it has not, Obi-Wan said. The night came and went, and the Salukami sun rose. The clones left Carter's home with Captain Rex not long ago. He reunited with General Kenobi and the rest of his brothers, and soon after, they all left the planet and returned to Coruscant. It had been several days since they returned to Coruscant. During that time, Ace Chaos was given a proper GD funeral, attended by the entire GD Council, as well as hundreds of other GD Knights, either in person or via holographic transmission. It was a sad day, with Scott, Hope, and Chaos's clone teams all hit particularly hard by the losses. Chaos ends up essentially sacrificing himself to protect Hope, Scott, and his men. A noble end for a noble GD Knight. At the moment, Captain Rex was sitting in a small lounge area, and he found himself with Team Domino, Anakin, Ahsoka, and the Avengers. What topics did they discuss? A certain peasant he had met in Salukami. I can't turn Carter in. It's my responsibility, but I just can't do it, Rex said, slouching slightly in his seat. So, what did you do? Steve Rogers asked. Nothing. Lying that I didn't see him, or just fell asleep at the thing going on at the farm, Rex admitted loudly. Really? Anakin asked in surprise. Yeah. Rex nodded. I know what I have to do, but seeing what Carter did, and what he believed in, War Machine said. Rex nodded, understanding what he meant. He's a deserter, but he's certainly not a coward. Well, it took a lot of courage for you to make that choice, Rex, Anakin said, placing a comforting hand on the captain's shoulder. General, how can you be sure? Rex asked. We all have choices, Rex, Steve said. You have yours, and we have ours. Sometimes, we don't always know if we've chosen the right course of action. We just have to deal with it when the time comes. How can you be sure? Five asked. I'm not sure, Steve admitted. All we can really do is take it one step at a time and hope the galaxy doesn't turn into chaos on our hands. After that, the room was mostly silent. Everyone in the room had a strange feeling that couldn't be fully described. All they can do is sit, stand, or lean as they focus on the real source of this conversation. Select. Chapter 246. A Rare Leisure Time. It was a typical day on Coruscant. The sun was shining, and everything was cheerful in the Republic's capital. In the residence of Padme Amidala and her unknown husband Anakin, the Naboo senator was packing his belongings in his bedroom, humming a pleasant tune. You suddenly look cheerful, Anakin said from the doorway. Anything good happening in the Senate? Unfortunately, no. Anakin soon paled a little and tensed. Is this our anniversary? Your birthday? If so, I'm sorry. Let me make it up to you. Again. No, but I'm glad you remembered that. What is that? Giving myself a little break, Padme replied, heading to her closet and picking out a few other clothes. Then she answered the unspoken question. Back home to Naboo, spending some time at my family estate. Oh. Anakin blinked and smiled. What a coincidence. I have some time off too. I have invited the Avengers, your Padoran and many others to come along. I'm sorry, what? Padme laughed at her husband's response. I'm sorry you won't be alone with me, even though I would find it pleasant and enjoyable. Anakin smiled. What on earth is this for? Padme began to choose her clothes with C-3PO helping her pack. Well, if you didn't know what our Avengers friends are doing, they are getting ready for vacation. Padme said. I don't recall any vacations anytime soon. Anakin made a thoughtful gesture. Then again, there are so many cultures in the galaxy, I may have forgotten. Yeah. Padme elaborated. Holidays. Back on their home planet, it's almost the end of the year. It's the last 2 weeks of their calendar year. They're celebrating a bunch of holidays. Oh. Now Anakin was interested. What are they? C-3PO responded. I believe Mr. Rogers said one, called Hanukkah. Hanukkah? Yes, about lighting candles once. It was a celebration of one of their home religions. 3P0 then spoke about other holidays. They also have Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's Eve, the last day of their calendar, and New Year's Day. So, the new year begins. You did this because, since they are homesick and can't get there anytime soon, I thought it would be nice to celebrate some of these holidays at my estate, Padme told her husband. What the hell is going on with them? Anakin asked, walking over to his wife. While everyone is different in some way, from what they described, the whole concept is about gift giving and spending time with loved ones. Gifts? Anakin mused. That sounds interesting actually. It does, doesn't it? Padme smiled. I think it's going to be a great time. I believe Peter mentioned something about cultural exchange. Anakin laughed loudly. After a day or two of packing, many people boarded a luxury cruiser to the beautiful and scenic world of Naboo. After leaving the cruiser, they flew directly to Padme's family estate, where they would spend the Christmas holiday together, before returning to their respective residences. I don't even know where to begin to thank you, Padme, Natasha said, pulling the senator in for a hug. Padme laughed happily and hugged her friend. I guess after everything you've done for us, this is nothing. The taste of home is the best that any Avenger could describe, and the break that Padme and her family have managed to set up is truly touching. Thanks to the Avengers' personal AI, TAP, who managed to correlate data from the holographic network with the best materials and basically everything else they needed to replicate a festive time that felt like home. There were several trees decorated with lights and other ornaments. Candles were lit in an atmospheric way, adding to the festive feel. I must admit, Obi-Wan stood a few meters away with Steve, Rhodes, Matt, and Anakin, looking around at all the decorations. These festivals you celebrate on your own planet are quite attractive. It could use a little less glare, Anakin said. Matt coughed and smiled. Being blind does have its advantages sometimes. Wow, Matt, wow, War Machine said in a flat tone. Suddenly, Solonabera's little daughters rushed to Steve, grabbed his hands, and pulled him away from the group of people he was standing with. Point elsewhere. Quicksilver and a companion walk around the small estate. Senator Rio Chachi, this Christmas holiday sounds like a merry one. Quicksilver chuckled softly. Yeah, it was fun. Gift giving and all that. The Avengers softened. This was the best time I can think of with my sister and my parents. Noticing his change in mood, Rio placed a hand on his arm. He looked down at her and saw the comforting smile she gave him, making him smile as well. As she looked up at Pietro, she noticed a strange plant hanging over them, seemingly coming from nowhere. What is that? Chucky asked, causing Pietro to blink and look up at what caught Chucky's attention. Quicksilver's eyes widened slightly when he realized what it was, and out of the corners of his eyes and ears, he swore he saw a small figure, wings humming. Well, Quicksilver coughed awkwardly. You see, it's another Christmas tradition back home. Oh. Rio looked up at the plant. What does this mean? Quicksilver rubbed the back of his neck, smiling a little as he looked away from the senator, who had a slight blush on his cheeks. Well, I'm not sure you should know. He teased. It might embarrass you. Come on, tell me. Chukai said with his hands on his back. You asked for it. Before she knew it, she received a quick kiss on the cheek. Chucky froze and blushed, which made Quicksilver grin, before looking around and seeing what, or rather who, he was looking for. Okay, Hope, keep going now. Now go and bother others. Quicksilver said helplessly to the flying spot, and it flew away quickly. What's that? Rio stammered. It's a Christmas tradition back home, Quicksilver explained. When two people are under the live oak tree, well, if they are a couple, they usually kiss. But what Quicksilver didn't expect was that two slender arms held his head, and he was pulled down by the diminutive senator, whose soft lips pressed against him. After a few seconds, he closed his eyes and wrapped his arms around her slender frame. Standing there in shock. From a distance, the wasp spun triumphantly and flew away. Back inside, everyone present was chatting and celebrating. Kenobi was interrupted by Natasha, who asked him if Satine had received her gift, to which the Jedi Master replied that she should receive his gift soon. In another corner, Anakin was talking to Padme's parents in a more private way. Not much was said, but the looks Anakin got from Chopper and Drew were enough to get the message across. He just breathed a sigh of relief and grinned at Padme's parents. The rest of the Avengers are talking with Padme, her sister Sora, Sora's husband Derrid, and Ayla. However, an Avenger is alone. Scott Lang stood outside, looking up at Naboo's moon, then glancing down at a photo in his hand. In the photo, he is seen holding up his daughter, Cassie, in his Ant-Man suit. As Hope tickles her, he smiled sadly, his eyes lighting up when he saw his daughter, hating himself for not being there right now. This was supposed to be his first Christmas with her out of prison, and Scott felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to look at Hope. In her other hand she held a picture of herself and Scott. He wordlessly put his other arm around her, and they leaned their heads together in another part of the estate. Ahsoka and Barriss sat in a large hammock made entirely of spiderwebs, gazing at the stars above. The commotion in the distance reached their ears, but never disturbed them. The only brief incident was when Peter crawled over to them to bring them some of the food and drink they had requested. Thanks, Peter, Ahsoka said, and Barriss gave their male friend a smile. You're welcome, Peter said, and the three of them sat in silence in the comfortable spiderweb hammock. They ate their food without saying much, until, oh, I almost forgot. Peter reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 packages. What is this? Barris asked in surprise. It was a little thing that took me a while to make, but thanks to Scott I pulled it off, Peter explained. They both tentatively took the gifts from him, hesitating for a moment. Peter, you know, as GD, there are certain things we can't really own, Ahsoka said after a moment. I know, but I was just trying to be nice, and Peter muttered the next few parts, which were hard for the 2 Padawans to hear. Barris figured it wouldn't hurt to see what Peter got, and she opened her gift first, with Ahsoka following closely behind. What they saw were beautifully crafted pendants that were flower-shaped in structure, but delicately designed. Ahsoka ran her hand over the colors of the pendant. These are my marks. Peter, you did this? Barris asked in mild surprise, staring at the patterns on her own pendant, which were identical to her facial markings. It took me a while to get them right, Peter admitted. I was trying to figure out the best metals that would be compatible with your lightsaber. What? Ahsoka asked, confused. Spider-Man shrugged. Well, yeah, I remember you guys always told me that a lightsaber is a Jedi's most important possession, so I thought, if you don't want to wear a lightsaber, I'd make some things that you can attach to your lightsaber. They were both silent for a while, until Miriam Padawan gave Peter a kind smile. That's very thoughtful, Barris said, looking at her gift again. She then put the pendant around her neck, hiding it beneath her clothes. Surprising Ahsoka. Barris said with a satisfied look on his face. Now it will be with me forever. Ahsoka frowned in thought, looking at her hair until her eyes lit up, and she placed it as a second braid to hers. Now, I have it too, Ahsoka announced happily. Thanks Peter, haha. You're welcome. Happy first Christmas, Peter said happily. Both girls hugged Spider-Man and continued stargazing. Although the galaxy is at war and the conflict continues, there is a brief moment of relaxation for all on Naboo as they celebrate Earth's first festival. Chapter 247. The troops are divided into 2 groups. Are they still fighting? I would say let them have fun. The last mission was a little too easy. You sure are. They'll be fine. Kraglin. Seriously, what has ever happened to make us serious since we got here? Not much really. What's it called again? Ranky, Ank. Yes, that's the thing. Bang you. Meatbags are earning my respect. It's nice to know something's haven changed after all this time. Come. Face death. I'm Groot. A body was thrown onto the bar, landing next to 3 people sitting in their booths. I gotta admit, it's nice to see Groot doing something besides playing that annoying game, said a man in a maroon trench coat. Was that game fun, Quill? Not bad, said Guardians of the Galaxy Captain Peter Quill, shrugging. It just gives you some bragging rights. Can I try it? Kraglin asked. Star-Lord grunted, and the game console beeped, indicating that he had lost. Next to the 2, the Mad Titan's daughter Gamora looked at the fight in the bar with a confused look on her face. Sadly, this has been her form of entertainment for some time. Ever since being taken in by Thanos, all she has really done in her life is fight, kill, and train. Even watching others kill and fight each other is very calming. This is all she can really enjoy. Nothing else can please her. However, over the past few months, she couldn't help but listen to the music of Quill's Earth more and more as she watched Drax the Destroyer throw the core in through the roof. Also, even though she pretended not to show it, she really did care about these idiots. Even their newest member is starting to grow up. He expresses how much he respects her skills and abilities, often lamenting the limitations of his robots being unable to perform those abilities. She watched as Rocket Raccoon stood on top of a man and hit him in a channeling manner until HK-47 got close enough to knock the man unconscious. Gamora's gaze shifted to a part of the bar that had remained relatively unscathed for the most part. As the fight went on, there were some customers who either ignored the commotion or shouted excitedly with their points in their hands. Watching them, Gamora's eyes narrowed slightly, staring at the other Guardian who was not participating in the fight. Mantis sat in another booth with a curious look on her face, talking to an armored man with his helmet off. If she remembered correctly, Quill had mentioned this man Mantis had met. This has to be Finhissa. From what they've learned in this galaxy, Finn is part of this group known as the Mandalorians. Seems to be a warrior culture. Wonder what he's doing here? Didn't he seem to pose a threat or have any ill intentions towards Mantis? He'd better not. Mantis is the most susceptible of the Guardians. Gamora blinked and looked at Star-Lord and Kraglin. Huh? What's wrong? You alright? Kraglin asked. It's okay. I'm keeping an eye on the Mandalorian, Gamora said, leaning back in her seat. There aren't many people we need to trust here. Yeah, especially after the Hutts tried to screw us over, Peter complained. Star-Lord then picked up his drink and leaned back like Ithilien Groot as the battering ram was finally thrown. Looks like they're done now, Kraglin pointed out. Peter and Gamora looked back and saw Drax knocking another mercenary out of the bar and HK-47 smashing another man's head with his metal hand. Rocket Raccoon was laughing, Groot was grinning smugly, and the former of the two walked over to the bar and threw away the points he had stolen during the battle. After a while, the drinks were finished, more points were handed out, and the bar returned to its usual business. Who's going to pay for it this time? Quill asked. I know, boss, Kraglin said. It's my turn anyway. Rocket, Groot and Drax are drinking. Gamora briefly glanced at Mantis and her Mandalorian friends, who appeared to be speaking to someone else. She saw him holding a launcher with a small projection of another armored Mandalorian on it. When can I bother you nice guys? The man in the booth looked back and saw a creature with a short stature, thick legs, and only 4 fingers on his hands. He had an elongated head and a reptilian face, with a pair of beady eyes under goggles. The man's skin was light orange. If the Guardians remembered correctly, the beings approaching them were Felucians, a species they had seen roaming around Mos-Eisley not long ago. Maybe, depends on what you want to talk to us about, Quill said in a flat tone. I've been hearing about you guys, the Felucian said nervously. You call yourselves the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Mostly, Kraglin replied. Then please, I beg you to help me, the Felucian said in a desperate tone. I don't know who else to turn to. I don't know if my friends have managed to find anyone else here. Gamora exchanged glances with the other two before turning back to the man in front of her. What do you want? She asked. Pirates, the Felucian replied quickly. They have been harassing my village for some time. Pirates? Quill repeated. That sounds good. If we don't give the pirates a portion of our crops, they will destroy our homes, including us. Okay, that sounds bad, Quill admitted. So what's your crop? Gamora asked. It has several names, Nasilim, Solomon Nisilin. I thought I might have heard of them, Kraglin said, rubbing his arm. Are they not really effective healing herbs? This is probably the only export the locals offer, because it is so valuable in this galaxy. Silim farming is actually a meager industry, but without herbs to sell, we would have no money to buy food, fuel, or equipment. I can see your dilemma, Gamora said kindly. But do you have enough money to pay the mercenaries? We can negotiate this and come up with a reasonable price after bargaining. This is much better than the pirates, said the Felucian. Question. Why don't you just fight them yourself? HK-47 said. The Felucians jumped in shock, looking at the robot that appeared behind them. Rocket, Drax, and Groot also returned to their seats. Maybe it's easy for you, but look at me. The alien gestured to himself. My fellow peasants and I are not warriors. Statement. One does not need to be of size to be an effective fighter, HK declared, looking down at Rocket, who puffed out his chest and gave a grin. Point at this time, Mantis Girl also came back. Hello, everyone, what are you doing? She asked politely. Decide if we should help with something here, Rocket said, pointing at the Felucians. I'm Groot. The group groaned, causing Rocket to growl in annoyance at the tree man. Gamora quickly helped Mantis understand the current situation. Oh. Mantis antenna drooped sadly. Can we help them? That is our decision, Mantis, Kraglin said. These are farmers and they really need help, Mantis pleaded. Trust me, Mantis, I don't want another job, but didn't we already take another one? Quill pointed out. We can't move forward with half the strength. You can bet the protectors won't appreciate us asking for help. Maybe not everyone needs to go with the Mandalorian, Gamora said. What do you mean? Quill looked at her. We already have more than enough here for our next job. Because there are so many Mandalorians, Gamora pointed out. So what? You mean split into 2 teams? Kraglin asked. Pretty much, yes. Can help us get more money. Rocket said. Remember, they're farmers. Rocket. Quill deadpanned. Yes, I know, Quill. But, they can fetch a good price for their crops, Rocket pointed out. We do need to restock our medicine, Drax added, making the Guardian blink. That's right, Kraglin agreed. Okay, so what do we do about it? Quill asked. Disclaimer. I don't mind helping these little creatures demonstrate my flesh bag killing abilities. HK-47 said, causing the Felucian to look up at the robot nervously. I guess that means we agree to your request, Star-Lord said. Someone has to stop bad things. I am going with the Mandalorians, Drax announced. I want to observe their warrior ways. I'm Groot. No, Rocket pointed at Groot. If you're going with the Protector, that means no video games. I'm Groot. Groot said in an offensive manner. Then start acting like it, Rocket fired back. That game is nothing but garbage in your head, Groot just snorted in annoyance. I'm going with the Mandalorian, boss, Kraglin told Star-Lord, and the Guardians of the Galaxy leader nodded in agreement. So, Rocket and I are going to go with the farmers here, Star-Lord said. Gamora. I'll go with you, Gamora said to him. Disappointed tone. Lady Gamora, don't you believe in my abilities? HK said, with a synthesized tone showing heartbreak. Gamora deadpanned. It's not your skills that I'm worried about, HK, and you know that. Dissatisfied sigh. Curse. Nothing can go wrong between me and you, Gamora. The Guardians of the Galaxy split into 2 teams, with Kraglin, Drax, Mantis, and Groot walking over to Finhisa, who was waiting for them at the front entrance of the bar. This is odd when one considers that Mantis's chance encounter with the Mandalorian eventually turned into a few run-ins on other planets that began to blossom into a working relationship with these warriors known as Protectors. This will be the 5th work they have completed together. The other 4 followed the Felucian out from the back. Do you have your own transportation? The Felucian asked. Yeah, this way. Chapter 248 Misunderstanding. The Banata left hyperspace and flew towards the planet Felucia. Since arriving in this galaxy, they have learned that this place does not have the universal neural transmission network that connects most of the universe. Instead, they have something called hyperspace here as their FTL source. Thankfully, the team has a couple like Kraglin and Rocket Raccoon, as well as HK-47 to point them in the right direction. They are getting closer to the planet Felucia when they notice some kind of satellite in the planet's orbit. What is that? Quill asked, squinting at the strange object. Their clients and planet natives gasped loudly. Oh no, I totally forgot about that. That was a Separatist defense investigation. What do you mean? Rocket looked at the Felucian expectantly. If it doesn't recognize you as an ally, it might deploy starfighters against you. Relieved. I think it might have taken sensible defensive measures, HK-47 responded, still sitting in his seat. This no doubt came as a shock to their clients, as he watched them get a little more comfortable in their seats, just as the strange probe up ahead deployed 5 vulture droids. Just 5? Star-Lord scoffed. They obviously haven't heard about our battle with those gold-skinned monarch bastards. Remember, we are in another galaxy, so these Separatists won't know them. Gamora pointed out. Good. Rocket's smile was manic. This means we can show off our skills. Before their Felucian client could voice his recently formed investigation, Rocket and Star-Lord were eager to spring into action. Quill pushed forward at full speed, the rocket letting out a roar as he began firing Banata's weapons. In a split second, 2 of the vulture droids were shot down, while the other 3 crawled around the ship before repositioning themselves in pursuit. Hey, they look like they are going to line up, Quill pointed out. Great. Rocket flipped a few switches upwards, aiming at the 3 vulture droid ships that were getting closer and closer to them. The moment he locked onto them, Rocket launched a frenzy of attacks. The guns on their side opened fire, firing several rounds that pierced the vulture robots. Raccoon laughed at the sight. Ha. That's so easy. Oh, for love's sake don't do it again, either of you. I've dealt with it once before, and you remember how it turned out. Relax, Gamora. Rocket scoffed. It's just us filming shit. Gamora looked at Quill, her expression confirming this. She frowned slightly and leaned back in her seat as they descended to the planet's surface. Following the instructions given to them by their client, the Guardians reached the edge of a village and Binata landed on the ground. We are here. The customer rushed off the boat and ran towards the village point. The 4 Guardians got off the boat and passed through the village gate. They noticed the small houses in the village, among which there was a particularly large building. As they entered the village, one thing struck them. This place looks desolate, Quill said, looking around. I don't think so, Gamora said, glancing at the pink potato-like plants. The crops appear to be ready for harvest. Where's everybody? Rocket asked loudly, walking up to one of the crops and poking it with his finger. Hopefully our customers will remember to tell us what's going on beforehand, Quill said. Hate to see if the pirates have come over and done their job. If they did, we'd be looking at a one-sided skirmish, not to mention a lot of dead bodies, Gamora said, crossing her arms. Well, there may not be any bodies, said Rocket, examining the farm implements. Q. Where are the villagers? HK-47 said. Where's Muris? Gamora added, looking around the village again. If I remember anything about farmers in the greatest movie ever made, Footloose, check out the barn, Star-Lord said. They walked over to the largest building, now identified as a barn, and to the control panel. With a quick push of a button, the barn doors opened to reveal, that's not a ship for farmers, Gamora said bluntly. Indeed. Rocket's eyes quickly analyzed the ship. That's a bounty hunter ship. So there are bounty hunters here? Quill muttered. Then why hire us? HK asked the common question in their minds. Before they could say anything else, they heard a commotion coming from a nearby hut. You two stay here, Quill said to HK and Gamora, gesturing his head towards the cabin and exchanging glances with Rocket. The raccoon nodded, and the two approached the cabin and walked inside. They looked around the relatively smaller boat until Rocket noticed a small hatch. He snapped his fingers, getting Star-Lord's attention, and pointed to the door in the ground. Star-Lord pulled out one of his quad blasters and hovered over the hatch, while Rocket grabbed the handle. They both paused for a moment until Rocket opened the hatch. Quill raised his weapon, and Rocket quickly pulled out his own. After a while, they realized that the people hiding inside were Felucians. We found them, Quill muttered, quickly sheathing his weapon. Some of them, at least. Rocket took a moment to look at the 3 Felucians in the hiding space. Damn, they're really freaking out. Quill frowned, raised his hands and crouched down. Hey, it's okay. We are not here to hurt you. Please, put down your weapons. But they will hurt us, Rocket said in a flat tone. They both turned around to see 4 men standing before them. A Zabrak woman has her blaster pointed at Star-Lord's head. Next to her is a tall alien with a crossbow and a large round hat. On the other side of the Zabrak females is the female species known as the Frank. Behind them was a large, heavily armored figure with 2 white eyes visible between its visor. Relax. We are not here to cause trouble, Quill said, holding up his hands. The man in the big hat spoke in his native tongue, but Rocket seemed to hear him clearly. Battles aren't always about numbers, Rocket said. 4 against 1 is hardly a fair fight, the Frank woman responded. Wait a minute, 4 to 1? Rocket asked loudly. What? Quill doesn't count. We don't count you. The little guy who's only knee high, the armored man said, his voice slightly mechanical. Rocket snorted. Well, that's something I haven't heard in a long time. Suddenly, the Zabrak woman felt the tip of a knife pressed against the back of her neck. Do you count us? Gamora said coldly, her body very stable. Who are you? Zabrak asked, keeping his eyes on Quill. We were sent by Muris, Star-Lord replied. About pirates harassing his village. The Zabrak woman frowned. That's why we're here. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and Rocket thought for a moment and said, maybe we got it mixed up. Perhaps, Zabrak said. Or maybe Muris realized you guys are no good and knew we'd be a better choice. Rocket quickly gave a feral grin that made the other 4 bounty hunters' hair stand on end. Rocket, Gamora warned. What's wrong? I was just talking. Wait. Suddenly, another Felucian rushed in with their original client, Muris. Please stop. They were brought here by my brother. Please put away your weapons. The Zabrak women heard this and slowly put away their weapons. Need I remind you, Cassis, that you have made a deal with us? The Zabrak woman said. Yes, Cassis said. But I also sent out Muris so that we could recruit more men. Muris has told me that an agreement has been reached with these men that will not affect your compensation in any way, shape, or form. Slowly, both sides laid down their weapons. Alright. Then, the Zabrak female crossed her arms and looked at Star-Lord. Who are you guys? Star-Lord looked at Gamora for a moment, then back at the Zabrak woman, and shrugged. We are the Guardians of the Galaxy. The bounty hunters blinked collectively. They had never heard of such an organization, but fortunately the misunderstanding was resolved. Chapter 249 Cooperation. What should we do now? Once things settled down, introductions were made quickly. The 8 mercenaries were now sitting in a more spacious dining room in Cassis's own home. The Zabrak woman Sassy Suji is the leader of this group of bounty hunters. With her was Enbo, a Tibetan from Jiuzhang, Guardians of the Galaxy? Suji said, looking unmoved, facing Star-Lord and Gamora. Well, we didn't come up with this name ourselves, Star-Lord admitted. Oh, by the way, I forgot it was that troublemaker Onon who gave us that name, said Rocket, seeming to study the contents of his gun. So what? What exactly is your group? Rumi asked. Statement. We are a group of efficient killers who rely on the higher side of morality. HK-47's response was exactly what Rocket wanted. Damn, that's a really great way to put it. Rocket and HK received annoyed looks from Gamora, and Quill tried to stifle his laughter. Can we get down to business? Gamora said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Cassis. Gamora began. Are we going to deal with these pirates that Morris mentioned? Cassis glanced down, his expression showing that he was lost in thought. We only had to deal with these pirates for a short time, Cassis said in a grim tone. But in that time, they took away half of our crops, or even more, leaving us with almost nothing in terms of trade and resources. We need our crops for currency, tools, and food. With these pirates, we will starve and suffer as long as they stay here. Cassis then looked at the large group of people in front of him. But now, with the 8 of you here, we have a chance to drive those terrible pirates away. He muttered something under his breath, causing Gamora to look at him. Speaking of compensation, how can you be sure you can afford the 8 of us? Suji asked the Felucian. You gave us a much better deal than those pirates, Cassis said flatly. At least we can come to an agreement with you, Morris said. The pirates basically threatened us directly. This is their way of dealing. Rocket hummed loudly in thought. What do they pay you? A satisfactory reward. Suji said. What about you? Psyllium seeds. What? Rumi asked. Some seeds, Gamora said. Seeds. The Mecha bounty hunter said in complete surprise. That couldn't be further from the truth. After some discussion with the customer, they ended up with just one bottle of psyllium seeds. With some little love and care, namely Groot's plant manipulation, they'll be able to grow plenty of psyllium themselves. Granted, it'll be a long process before they're profitable, but it's a start. Yunbo then spoke in his native language, causing Suji to look at him. We are not peasants, Yunbo, Suji said in a dry tone. We've made an agreement. I'd rather not break it. Still. Rumi stared at the 4 guardians. Why just seeds? It takes time to grow something like this. Sly statement. We have our own methods. We are a patient bunch. Quill snorted at Rocket's words. Keep going. Star-Lord asked the village chief. How many pirates like this do you usually see? Dozens at a time, Cassis said. Total? Dozens. Maybe more. Cassis's expression then turned anxious. But last time, they didn't come like before. Do they have any new members? Rocket asked. Robots, Muris answered. Robots like we've never seen before. They can fly, and their arms can turn into weapons. Transform? Quill perked up. Like Decepticons and Autobots. Gamora rubbed the bridge of her nose and sighed in frustration. That's actually pretty cool, Rocket admitted, actually knowing what Star-Lord was hinting at. Robots. Suji said, his tone serious. Describe them. What do they look like? They look different. Cassis said, frowning as he recalled the new droids. We saw some of the droids from the Separatists when the war came to Felucia. But the ones the pirates brought, they're weird. Strange. What's going on? They're unlike any robot I've ever seen, Cassis said. The way they move and operate is very unusual. I just can't describe it properly. Probably a new model, Rocket muttered. I've seen some Separatist droids before, and they're usually not made of the best materials, said Morris. They're cheap and mass-produced. These are top of the line in terms of the way they're designed. Even the bounty hunting droids aren't that good. This is certainly a rather amusing detail, as the bounty hunter and the guardian exchange glances. Pirate. The 8 mercenaries outside heard a child shouting that pirates were coming and started to move. Weapons drawn and ready, everyone rushed outside, just in time to see a young Felucian child charging towards them. The pirates are back, the kid said, pointing in the direction he was running. Star-Lord narrowed his eyes and clicked the receiver behind his right ear. After a moment, his helmet formed on his head, which of course caught the bounty hunter's attention. They had never seen anything like it before. However, they had to ask him one more time when they heard the sound of a speeder approaching. The group rushed down the hillside and saw the pirates entering the outskirts of the village. They parked the speeder just a few meters away from them. It didn't take long for the bounty hunter to find that the pirates were nothing but weakways. However, as they got closer, HK spotted something in the air and looked up, which did not go unnoticed by Gamora. She looked up and saw 2 metallic figures in the air, flying over the weakway pirates. Landing between the 2 groups was a pair of robots, no doubt the ones Cassis had mentioned earlier. They are humanoid in shape, and their plating is a dull silver. Pointed claws sprout from either side of their heads, like ears. The light emanating from certain limbs and their heads glows an eerie red. Star-Lord felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at them. He almost thought they were the T-800s from the Terminator movies he had seen as a child. Chapter 250 Pirate Hondo. Suji stood in front, wielding her blaster, and said, I speak for the people of this village. State your name and organization. My name is my own business, said one of the weakway pirates. Wait. Did you really name yourself something like that? My own thing. Quill exclaimed. Wow, your parents must have had no creativity when they named you. The pirate, who was called my own business, growled at the obvious insult. It didn't help when his fellow pirates beside him snickered. We here to take back what belongs to us. Q. Is your name on it, meatbag? HK-47 said, his voice condescending. Might as well put my name on you, robot. The pirate growled irritably. You better get out of the way. We are here to take what's ours. Nothing here belongs to you, unless you come to buy it, Suji said in a firm tone. Buy it. A voice laughed loudly. Guardians. I can't believe you came all this way to see me. This drew the Guardians present to focus their attention on a man walking in from the back. As he walked to the front, they saw a very familiar male weakway. Hondo? What the hell are you doing? Rocket questioned. Suji glanced back and stared at the Guardian. Do you know each other? The weakway pirate known as Hondo smiled widely. Of course we do. Tell them how long we've known each other. Quill. I'm afraid it won't be long. Star-Lord pulled his hand away. Haha. Here I thought we were friends. If you are truly interested in being friends, Hondo, I strongly suggest that you stop threatening these peasants, Gamora said firmly. Hondo gasped sarcastically. Oh. Please tell me you didn't listen to these bounty hunters. Scum. What do you want us to do? Rocket questioned. HK-47 statement. Acquaintance. If we are being polite, I don't even want to say we know each other, Quill said, crossing his arms with an annoyed look and retracting his helmet. Well, these scumbags, just like you, are here to help them protect what is rightfully theirs, Suji told the pirate lord. Oh, come on, honey. How much do they pay you? It doesn't matter. Whatever they give you, I'll double it, and all you have to do is get out of the way. The Zabrak bounty hunter responded, poking his chest with his finger, and said word by word, we will not break the agreement. This caused the rest of Hondo's men to quickly turn their weapons on the bounty hunter, who in turn did the same. Hondo paused, however, as he felt a blade pressed against his neck, staring at the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. You don't want to repeat the same mistake as last time, do you? Gamora threatened in a low voice. Despite his attempts to hide it, Hondo shifted in obvious discomfort. He stared at the sword, then at the other 3 guardians, also looking for, "Oh, it seems that not everyone is here." Hondo thought. The pirate captain laughed loudly and looked at the 2 robots that came with him. Soon after, the 2 robots raised their arms. The limbs moved from the elbow down and turned into blasters that looked like rail guns. Immediately, the guardians and bounty hunters raised their weapons, and the pirates followed suit again. Now it's a standoff. Hondo and Gamora looked at each other. "Dear, do you really want to test me now? In case you forgot, even the best thing you scratched me with isn't even there," Gamora reminded him. Yes, I know how strong you and your friends are." Hondo nodded. "But is it true?" The robot then turned its attention to the villagers. Hondo asked cautiously, "What on earth does this have to do with you, Quill? This doesn't seem like your usual type of work." "I'm sorry, Hondo, but Guardians is the name of my team," Quill said, his hands hovering over his quad blasters. "Besides the paycheck, there's a bit of a moral obligation to help those in need." Hondo sneered. "I prefer the GD. Maybe Kenobi will at least offer me a better deal." "Too bad luck for you," Rocket snorted. "We are not these GD knights you were looking for. Besides, they would have been more annoying," HK added. "With their personal limitations and rules. Could never get the job done right." Yes, Hondo nodded. "But at least, when helping others, they don't think about greed." "I thought you pirates would be the last people to talk to me about morality." Hondo laughed again. "You know, even if we're on the wrong track, I like you and your other fellow guardians. Always up for a good drink and can do more. Use better judgment when the time comes. However, Quill, well, no one is leaving this planet until I get my Salim. Well, I hope you like it here, because you're going to be here for a long time, parasite." Suji let out a piercing growl. Hondo ignored Suji's threats as if nothing had happened. "You know, the crops aren't ready yet." He turned around and faced Cassis. "You better hurry up, old man. You don't want to die before this starts, do you?" the pirate lord threatened, walking towards his speeder before he and his men took off and headed back to their ship. The Terminator-like robot followed closely behind, moving its arms again. Thrusters ignited from their palms and feet before taking off into the air, following the weak-way pirate away. They watched the pirates go away, and once they were out of sight, they relaxed and put their weapons away. "We have a lot of work to do," Star-Lord said loudly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.